Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. I'm Scott, joined once again by Rob. And Rob, I can see it in your face. You're tired. I'm tired. But hopefully this podcast is going to perk us up because we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to the Royal Rumble. Spoiler alert, guys. I did quite enjoy it. There are a few things I'm a little bit I'm not too sure about. But overall, I think it was a really good show. So it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, whether you're watching live or on demand. And we'll be talking Royal Rumble right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
There we go. So there we are. We're here to talk all about the Royal Rumble. And Rob, let's open it up with your thoughts overall of the show. What are you doing there? Come on. Professional friend. Come on. Oh, your mic's gone as well. What's going on?
There we go.
Super professional. What's going on, Rob? Look, the build-up show is the relaxed stream. This is a bit more professional, mate. Come on. Thank you again to everyone.
I didn't show the brand that rhymes with.
But I mean, I think I can tell what it is, mate. Anyway, go on. Let's hear your thoughts, mate. Just overall, first of all, before we break it down, match per match.
Probably one of my favorite rumbles of, I'd say, the last 10 years.
Wow, that's a big claim.
If not longer. Bro, it was so good. It was so good. Everything delivered. I think there was a couple of minor hiccups. There was things that could have gone a bit better. This is the only time I feel like I've ever taken notes because I was like, right, these are the only things that I need to talk about and discuss.
Okay.
Other than that, we kind of just go off the cuff and you lead it and then I'll react to it. But this is
you
the
got
only
certain points you want to get to today. I get you.
Only a couple. But man, it's good. Like it was really good. So yeah, people that are bad mouthing it, they're in my bad books.
Okay.
I'm defending this one.
Rob's going on a rant later on, maybe. But anyway, no, I get what you're saying. And I think it was a really good show. I'm not quite sure it's up there one of the best of all time or even of the last 10 years. It is one of the best. I wouldn't say it's in a category of claiming the best, though, or anything like that. Because there are a few things I still not 100% on, but I think they did deliver in like say pretty much in every department. A few things I would have preferred to change, especially when it comes to our predictions table and things like that, because I was so close on a lot of them. And I think, as we said a lot of times last night on our build-up show, Rob, like all these matches kind of interweave, and it's like you kind of have to get one of them right to try and get most of them right, like because they all kind of depend on each other. And if one thing goes wrong, then your whole booking for that night and therefore the road to WrestleMania is kind of changed, so minute details and all that kind of stuff, because again, a lot of the things I thought would happen kind of did, but in ways that were a little bit different to how I predicted. So frustrating on the kind of front of our predictions table, but still enjoyable on the front of the actual match itself. Now, of course, like I said, we did our build-up show last night. So once again, thank you to everyone that joined us, whether live or on demand. And special thanks, of course, to those special guests that came along as well. I think we had 8 of us on the show last night. It was absolutely incredible. So really fun times. Of course, kind of shout out to our friends in the wrestling media that managed to hop on the stream and kind of have fun, kind of getting excited for the Rumble. Now, we were getting excited for a show that was going to hopefully deliver. And overall, I think it did deliver, Rob. But towards the end of that build-up show, we found out that the first match going on would be the men's Royal Rumble, which, of course, starts bringing up the conspiracies. What's going to happen in the main event? Something big going to happen. Of course, most people would assume that would be something to do with The Rock or something huge that had to really deliver with Sami Zayn. And, of course, what we got was the latter. But let's go back to the beginning of the show, as we said there, and a little bit of a damper before we did get the show underway was recognizing that there were 27 people announced for the Royal Rumble. We had a special guest yesterday, of course, one of many, but one of those was Ash Rose, and he was basically saying he likes the idea of in the future, maybe not even saying anyone. No one declares, no one wins a match to get in it or anything like that. It's all a surprise.
Yeah.
And after being given 27 names, I start to lean towards that. To be fair, we were given a bit of a swerve because one of those people didn't even make it. And of course, that's because we got a surprise in the form of Logan Paul. But overall, mate, what did you think of the Royal Rumble match? I mean, these are hard ones to dissect because so much happens. But let's get your first overall feeling of the match itself.
Well, you make me laugh when you said like certain people didn't make it. I mean, it was Madcap Moss, Logan Paul. I mean, are you gonna moan about that?
No, I was fine with it. No offense to Madcap Moss. I think he had a nice little run with Baron Corbin when he turned babyface. But other than that, I couldn't tell you a single thing he's done since. So,
exactly.
Hey,
and you can name more. You could probably name more Logan Paul things than Madcap Moss things.
I could, but you could argue
exactly.
that's because they've given him an unfair shine because of his name rather than his talent. But I'm not saying he's not talented. If you're new here, I've been saying for a long time he is kind of he's incredible. What little time he's had in the ring and how well he's performed. But you could argue that there's a full timer in Madcap Moss losing out on an opportunity here. But with that in mind, I was happy to see Paul because I was happy to see what he did.
What shocked me was Logan Paul got a better reaction than Karrion Kross. What does that say? I mean,
are you shocked? I don't know. Again, this is another thing with Karrion as well. I think he's a great performer and there's a lot of potential here, but it's just not worked for him, man. Again.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying.
Come on, man. Is it
I'm trying not to show the logo.
Is it a milkshake?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right. No wonder you're taking so long to bloody drink it.
Delicious.
Don't want to get brain freeze now, do you?
No. That's only with the frappuccinos. But no, man, like the Rumble. When we were talking about it on the build-up, we all got a bit like, "Oh, is that really first?" But now, in the order and the way they done it, I'm glad it went first.
Yeah, I think it had to make. The only dampener, I think, is it kind of, and we'll get to Cody winning it, of course. I think it kind of lessened that a little bit. But it's only because the Sami thing was so important and so big and so well executed. Again, I don't want to jump all over the place, but we'll get there. But of course, that's a big reason why this opened up. But I think you're right. Generally speaking, it was a well-paced show. And what about the Rumble itself, though? Well-paced, would you say? I felt like it was rushed in certain ways. Few annoying things that happen within it. But yeah, overall vibes of the pacing of the actual Rumble match itself, the men's one.
Are we talking just the men's or overall Rumbles?
Let's just go with the men's first of all.
All right.
You can compare them if you need to make your point. Don't get me wrong.
But, yeah. Obviously, the women's one is so different. And I'll give that his praise and stuff like that as we go on. Men's one, it was rushed at times. However, I'm glad we didn't get that stereotypical loads of men go in, then all go over the top, one person, and it builds back up again. This was a different Rumble. It felt different to the structure that we've had, but since like 2000, like you have like 6 or 7 men in, they all go over the top, one person's left standing, then they build back up again, same thing, and then by the time it gets to like number 29, there's only 4 people left. Do you know what I mean?
There was still a lot, quite late.
There was
still
a
quite
lot
in there.
So the Rey Mysterio thing. Now I get Dom coming out next. And having Rey's mask, fantastic. Love the booking. The fact that Dominic Mysterio was the only one at the Judgment Day left in the ring towards the end, and the rest gone out, fantastic. Builds for Edge and I was going to say Ripley, but we're not sure now because obviously what's going on with
we'll get to that.
The women. Obviously, we'll get to that, but it definitely builds to the Edge stuff again, which I feel like it was left unfinished, and we were like, do we want it? Don't we want it? But if they're going to build it the right way, I'm happy. Having Dom at the end was great. But my only issue was there were 2 big things that really kind of dampened the Rumble. And I think one of them was the Rey Mysterio stuff. But I feel like that's building to WrestleMania against Dominic, or at least because Dom with the mask. The other thing was the Kofi Kingston spot because they didn't rehash what happened. I'm assuming it looked like he was supposed to land on the chair or something like that.
Yeah.
And that went wrong. And then Kofi had his foot up on the chair, and they said they're going to check it, basically VAR it, and confirm if he was in or not.
Yeah.
And they didn't confirm anything. So was he eliminated? Was it?
So there was
nothing.
A few things throughout the Rumble that felt like they did feel quite sloppy at times. Quickly get to a comment here. We've got Johnny Black with us. Hi, everyone. Johnny, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Really do appreciate you coming back here and watching the stream. How did you enjoy the Rumble, mate? Let us know your overall thoughts, and we'll try and get to them throughout the stream as well. And, of course, anyone watching live or on demand, we welcome your comments. So please get them in and let us know what you thought of the Rumble show itself. But, yeah, I'm going to go back on your points there. Let's go back on the Rey Mysterio one, first of all. I hate the fact that there were only 29 people in this match, because make a big deal of someone like Baron Corbin getting beaten up on the outside, but he's not in the match yet. He's not in the match, or they've gone through this rope, or they haven't, you know what I mean? And then only 29 people went there. I don't like that. I hate replace the person. How comes when it was whoever it was on the floor that Becky Lynch come and
it was
Lana? How comes we did it then with Becky Lynch? How comes this is, and we said last night on the build-up show, they chop and change things when it suits them, and that frustrates me. I know I shouldn't get wound up that much because it's, you know, it's just a TV show, but come on, man, like it's really annoying. I think it's just frustrating. It's insulting to the fans. Like it really it's a simple fix. Just send someone else out there to take his place. Dominic could have stolen his number. Why don't we do that? You could have shown Ray in the back hurt, and now rumors are coming out it's because Ray is legit hurt, and you know he weren't even there, sort of thing. I'd imagine, but like, come on, man, like that. Dom could have stolen his number. He could have said I've stolen his number without showing Ray, and then you know, all right, you can get into is that allowed and stuff like that, but it's just I didn't like it one bit, man. The fact is, Cody Rhodes beat 28 people. I hate it. Like there's a massive stain on this match for me. It's the same as the Maven situation years ago. I think Curtis Axel had a similar situation as well, where he didn't, because as far as I could tell as well, Booker T went through the middle ropes. He didn't go over the top rope. So that's another one as well. It was so sloppy. Like, I know they kind of feel, oh no, Russia. Like, in this day and age, mate, you mentioned VAR. Like, we've got things to look back on. And they kind of, I guess they bank on it not being important. But, like, it's not important until you tell us when you make it a storyline and suddenly it's important. If you want those storylines to matter, then it needs to matter when it's an accident as well. We need to, look, don't get me wrong, if someone's arm gets snapped off or something like that, find the way to work around it. But if Booker T goes through the middle rope, climb back in that rope and do it again. You know, like, that's what you need to do.
I mean,
if Rey Mysterio is taken out, which you know you're going to do, it's a storyline, put someone else in there as well. Like, because weirdly enough, on the build-up, do you remember I said, is there potential for them, we were talking about, to actually have 31, and like we were joking about it possibly being The Rock and stuff like that. Is there potential for that? And the way you could, when Ray didn't come out, I was like, they're actually going to do it. Someone's going to come out. They could have someone come out and say, if it weren't the whole Cody thing, I think that was too strong to work against. Someone could come out and go, no. There's still one more person in this. And not be 31, but technically be whatever number Ray was, or the 30th person. So why did they do that?
I don't know. My issue, though, is, so a lot of people in the comments were saying, oh, well, Cody went over the top rope at the end. He was eliminated. Firstly, the bell rung, so the match had ended. So, no, that's irrelevant. So, avoid that.
What? I don't even know what you're talking about. What?
So, Cody, WWE put a thing up about Cody being on Twitter, and he won it, and he's pointing to the WrestleMania logo and all that sort of stuff, right? Firstly, I love the Too Sweet and then the thing for Kenny Omega. Beautiful. I love that. I don't know if
they put it in their bio as well, didn't they?
Yeah. And I don't know if you see it or if you was able to lip read what he said, but he said, "Dad, I've done it," or something like that.
I heard he did. Yeah, I didn't actually
beautiful moment.
But I didn't know at the time. But
he's looking at the WrestleMania sign, and he just said to himself, "Dad, I've done it." And I was like, "Oh, that's up there with the gold dust, the Dustin and Cody moment." What was it? All in. All in, yeah. So fantastic. I love that.
No, actually, it wasn't. All in was when he beat Aldis. It was.
Was it
in one of the proper AEW shows?
It was.
I don't know. But
it was just before the show started, wasn't it? It was before AEW started. Yeah. So whatever.
No, the Dustin one wasn't.
Was it not?
In the NWA title from Nick Aldis was All In before AEW. Dustin.
Right. Okay.
AEW. But yeah, it was early.
Okay.
On, but yeah.
Yeah, that time it's so jumbled because there was a lot of stuff going on.
Especially in that time frame of, is this AEW? Is it considered an AEW show?
Exactly. But yeah, so it kind of reflects that, and I was like, that's another moment where you think, oh, that's just a perfect Cody moment. But people were saying that after that, Cody left via the top rope, and everyone was saying, well, if Cody left like that, then technically he eliminated himself.
But the
bell would rung. Exactly. The bell.
Oh, I guess maybe they mean it because again, someone didn't. There was only 29 people in the match.
But
Technically,
it doesn't matter.
speaking.
The bell
But
still has rung.
Yeah, I mean, the bell shouldn't have rung either. But yeah, I get what you're saying there. The whole thing's a jumbled mess. It's simple to fix. That's what annoys me about it.
Yeah.
They might think, it's convoluted and it's confusing, and it doesn't really. It's not a big deal, but it is a big deal when you mess it up and you do storylines this way. That's why it annoys me. A few more comments here from Johnny Black. Once again, mate, appreciate your comments and watching with us today. We've got, as a Rollins fan, I'm really disappointed that Logan took him out. I don't want those two to have a match at Mania. I think Seth deserves better than this, and happy Cody won though. Also says overall Gunther and the segment with Sami and Roman stole the show for me. Definitely, mate. We're going to get to the Sami and Roman thing later on, and I think I'm going to get goosebumps just talking about it. But Gunther, what a performance as well. We'll come back to that in just a second. But Rob, you had a bit of a reaction there. I don't know if it was to your milkshake or to the comment about Logan Paul and Seth. In some ways, I agree with that comment. I kind of don't want it, but in other ways, I kind of see it. It kind of makes sense. If Seth's not going to be in the role that we were saying last night with the build-up show, he's a victim of bad timing. Again, a few years ago, I felt like Seth Rollins' cool factor had completely gone. The past 2 years, it has come back at a time where he hasn't even got the ability to really explode and get the best out of it because he's not in that main event scene at the moment. So what else do you do with him? So doing something like this, but then what else does Logan Paul do? I know there were rumors about Cena, which I prefer if Cena comes back. There is Austin Theory, so it kind of protects that as well. So I think they will perform fantastically together. But I'm in the camp of I think Seth needs to be doing something. It's just another example of Seth isn't doing the main thing. He got a great role last year with Cody Rhodes. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. It wasn't about Seth. Sooner or later, it needs to be about Seth again. So I get that in that sense, but as we said so many times last night on the build-up show, sometimes you're just a victim of timing, and like the next best thing is to be just like Sami Zayn was last year, get in the kind of headlines in kind of these kind of Hollywood magazines and stuff like that because you faced Johnny Knoxville and now you're facing Logan Paul in the terms of Seth Rollins. But yeah, I'm sensing you probably feel somewhere along the lines that I am as well with that one.
Slightly. Look, I feel like if Seth isn't going to be going for a title, then I would rather him be having there's a storied match going on, right? There's something happening. But put it this way, would you rather Seth go against, let's say, for example, Johnny Gargano and mean absolutely nothing, right? Or then you put him.
Stocks fallen, by the way. Just to quickly point out, I think he got not as good a reaction as he would have got, let's say, 2 years ago. Real shame. I love Johnny Gargano, but yeah, that's just a comment on the way his return's been handled, in my opinion. But yeah, sorry, jump ahead with yourself.
But yeah, that's Seth versus Logan Paul. Now, when we got this at Saudi, the only thing people were talking about was Logan Paul. It was Logan Paul. It was the moment he done against Roman, and he done the viral thing on TikTok with the elbow drop or spot smash, whatever it was. Now you're telling me that people don't want to see Seth and they think he's better than that. But I can guarantee a part of Seth is like, I'm working with someone that's a money maker. Like Logan Paul prints money.
I'll be the one that Logan Paul tweets about. And that might sound like, no big deal, it's just a YouTuber. But let's be real, man. Like, attention like that is currency, So like, I think it'd be great for Seth's brand.
Exactly.
And I think athletically speaking, I think it'd be an incredible match as well. They could have something special. I mean, what Logan Paul's done so far has been fantastic. Again, it doesn't take away from what Johnny's saying there. I think as far as Seth feeling like he deserves more, and I agree with that. But this is just the way things are, and these are the way these are the way the cards have been dealt at the moment. So I think the next best thing is doing this, and I think they can both pull it off. And I mean, quickly touching on Logan Paul, mate, that moment with Ricochet last night, the noise of that impact, like I audibly shouted out when that happened. It was
me too.
What a moment.
These two guys. I mean, if we don't get a Logan versus Ricochet at some point, will be robbed of a match. It's the same as, in my opinion, Logan versus Seth. Like, that stuff needs to happen. And we said the Rumble is where you can set seeds and start sowing them seeds for things. But man, that spot was probably one of the most talked about spots in a Rumble for a long time.
For a long time, yeah. Oh, talking about spots, before I forget, sorry. You mentioned Cody earlier, Kofi even, and the mistake. I was really not happy, but I was okay with the fact Kofi messed up the other year. Was it last year or the year before? Because I was like, it puts kind of stock in that this is a really risky thing to do. It's not always going to work. But now that he's had 2 in a row that have failed, and this one looked rough as well, looked painful. I really hope he's doing it right. But it is a concern. And from the way Kofi was talking online, just kind of reading between the lines, really, I think he tweeted out a few things. Can't remember what he said, but I remember getting a vibe of, I think he might not be doing this again. And I hope that's not the case, because for me, the beauty of that spot is that it can go wrong. And the annoyance of that spot started to be that it never went wrong, and it was obvious, So the fact it's gone wrong once, I thought could kind of inject new life into it. The fact it's gone wrong twice probably makes him feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it anymore. But hey, if this message somehow ever gets to Kofi Kingston, buddy, don't give up on that spot. Keep doing it. The fact that you've missed it twice, to me, just enhances how incredible it is when you pull off an incredible save like that. So yeah, stick with that spot is what I would say.
Yeah, I think the only downside is he's so risky, and I don't want to say Kofi isn't getting any younger, because the guy is athletic.
Yeah.
But I think the more things that you try and factor in it. So let's say, for example, the first one with when he tried to skin the cat, or he tried to do the cat grab on the apron a couple of years ago, like the fans, right? And that didn't work because he put it in the ground. So I was like, okay, fine. But then there's other moments where he got caught by the rosebuds. That was more likely to go wrong, because if someone dropped him, there was all going over like dominoes.
Yeah.
The foot on the pancakes.
He might feel like the pancake one. He might feel like, oh well, yeah, maybe that is a factor. He's thinking, his body's going to catch up with him. He can't do it as much. And yeah, you don't want to start doing the easier ones, because that might take away from it. But at the same time, I'm sure there's still creative ones he can do that aren't going to put him at risk and be harder to pull off. And again, like you said, even that, which sounds simple, could have gone wrong, the rosebud one. So even if we start going back to things like that, I'd be happy with it, because I think it's such a unique thing in the Rumble. The only annoyance I've ever had with it is that they didn't combine it with Morrison when Morrison was back. So
yeah, that was a shame. We did miss out on that.
Exactly. But other than that, man, I really hope this isn't the last time he attempts something like that.
Yeah. The thing that I loved was at one point we had like 4 to 5 big men in that Rumble just battering the living daylights out of each other.
What was it, around 12, 13?
We got Brock, Lashley. I'm trying to think who else was in there. I was so excited for it. I was just like, what was going on?
Gunther.
Brock, Lashley,
Gunther, they together.
One more.
That's incredible.
But man, it was just, it was so good. And then later on, we got Omos and Braun. The minute Omos come out, I was like, Braun's coming out next. That was the only thing. I was like, you can call it.
Crazy seeing them next to each other, isn't it? Just how big Omos is.
Because it makes Braun look small. Imagine, I'd love to see you interview Omos when you the backstage press.
Yeah, mate. Oh, mate, it was bad enough when Bobby Lashley looked massive against me. And I mean, all these guys, Damian Priest, he's a tall guy and whatever. I'm just an average human being, but that's why I'm not a pro wrestler, I guess. But anyway, going for those big names and kind of big figures there, of course, with Brock Lesnar. Getting thrown out by Bobby, so I think we are going that direction. Not annoyingly, but it teased Gunther, which I think has made everyone go, that's the one I want, actually. I'm not always the biggest fan of a triple threat, but I wouldn't mind seeing them three go out together, because if it means Gunther gets a big role, and otherwise maybe he wouldn't. So I'd be happy with that. He looks incredible in this match. I think Brock looked great just for the fact that he looked like he wanted it. He got out of there and he was furious. Bobby Lashley looked good because he got rid of Brock. I thought all three of those people came out of this looking like fantastic. I guess the only downside for Brock could be that he slipped when he ran after Corbin. But other than that, I think all three of those men look fantastic in every single.
I think that looked more Collision though. Like the fact that
it was so powerful, he fell over. Yeah,
exactly. To me, I was like, he slipped, but I didn't look at it that way. I was like, he hit him with that much force that he come off his own feet. Like that's how I was looking at it. But dude, it was incredible. That was the other. So Johnny's put Drew was in there. Sheamus was in there.
Let's get to a few more of these comments. Actually, I got a little bit more about that Seth talk earlier. So he means Seth. What I mean for Seth is that they keep finding guys to like Theory, Logan, Cesaro, so they can push something better. But Seth keeps losing when to me deserves more. Yeah, I mean, again, that side of it, Johnny, I definitely agree with, especially with the way he's got himself over with this kind of reinvention, which is kind of happened about 2 or 3 times in the last 2-3 years. So yeah, I would agree with you there, mate. If the field was a little bit differently, he'd be in a much more higher positioned role at the moment. Also says, of course, Logan versus Seth is going to be a great match if it happens. Yeah, so I think we're on the same kind of wavelength there as far as it goes with me, Rob, and Johnny. So thank you, Johnny. Also said, is there any possibility to see Gunther versus Drew for the IC title? Would love that. I think that is a great shout as well. Of course, we've seen Gunther go at it with Sheamus, most notably, of course, at Clash at the Castle, which was, some people say match of the year and one of the best matches in recent history. I would agree. It was fantastic. Their whole feud was great. Starting out with those guys early on in this Rumble was really cool. Drew working with Sheamus pretty much as a tag team throughout this match as well was really cool to see. And it gives them all something to do as far as Drew and Sheamus. He can only kind of float around the main event for so long. I think Drew, we talked a few years ago about him becoming stale. He stepped back a bit. He went back to the main event scene. It didn't work out with the Cardiff stuff. Now he's gone back and he's working down the card again. And I think he's working really well for Drew, for Sheamus, and helping elevate someone like Gunther as well. So I'd be well up for a Drew McIntyre Gunther match. We've also got Richard Robles joining us again. Thank you very much, Richard. Zoe Stark Rumble match appearance could mean she's in the Judgment Day on this main roster. Very interesting point there. We're going to get to all the people that showed up in the Women's Rumble later on, but thank you for bringing that up, Richard. Before we do get to that match, have you got any kind of comment there on the Judgment Day and Zoe Stark?
Please keep them separate. Please keep them separate. Zoe Stark was probably one of my favorites in the Women's Rumble. Obviously, we'll get onto that more, but
okay.
But did she deliver? Oh my days!
Did,
Oh man,
a lot of those women
good.
Did as well. We said yesterday how kind of threadbare the match seemed.
It makes me think that. Sorry, it was just we were saying that how lackluster it looked, and it was just like. It doesn't look important, and they're scraping at the bottom of the barrel. The
talent isn't there on the main roster, but the talent is there in the company. They shouldn't have to be doing this with NXT talent. They're lucky they can, is what I'll say. So, again, they've done it over the years anyway, because the roster's always been thinner than the men's. But I had to rely on more legends and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed the Women's Rumble. But again, we'll get to that in just a bit. But again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us, whether it's live or on demand. We'd love to hear what you think about the Royal Rumble, so send in your comments there as well. Let's get back to some of the info, kind of talk about the Men's Rumble. We talked a little bit about it already. We could probably go a whole hour talking about the Men's Rumble, couldn't we? But Dom, of course, taking out Ray again. We expressed our annoyance at the whole kind of technicalities between Ray not actually entering. But Dom wearing Ray's mask, I thought was fantastic. And my goodness, does he look like his dad when he has a mask on? Like I was looking at it, I was going, I think that's not Ray. Like, it looks so much like his dad when he's got the mask, which sounds silly, he's wearing a mask. But like his eyes and his mouth, basically, it looked. You realize how much he looks like his dad when wearing a mask as well. So that was really cool to see. Interesting to see where that does go. Of course, like as you mentioned earlier on, we had the Judgment Day, and that's because Edge comes back, takes care of the Judgment Day, which I think was a wise thing to do as well. Not only that, Rhea Ripley comes out. Of course, she has a big role later on, but she comes out here. And why I thought she wouldn't win the Rumble was because I thought Beth's going to return. We're going to go into a feud with Beth. That did happen. Will we go into the feud? I don't know. But Beth come back, and that was a great little moment on the ramp as well.
But she was in gear. And
who Beth? Yeah, I don't know why she didn't come out later on. I thought she would then try and cost her later. So I was like, I might still get my point here, guys. I might still get my point, and Rhea not win it. And I thought maybe Bayley, but look, I know Rhea was the obvious spot. But again, we'll get to that match later on. But what did you think about the Judgment Day kind of situation here within the Men's Rumble, mate?
Look, I think if you're gonna have factions in the company, and you're not using them as a way to really build and elevate them throughout a thing like a Rumble, then what's the point of having factions? I mean, I know we'll get onto the women's one later, but control damage. The way they done, or damage control, the way they've done everything. The way they've done everything in the Rumble as a unit between the three of them, fantastic. And Judgment Day, as they started doing it, we didn't get it enough. But when they all came out, it was great. Finn Balor's attire, though, fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Like the one silver shoe, the one black shoe, and mixed. I think we're getting this different version of Balor and all this Judgment Day stuff. They look so much more relaxed. It doesn't seem as forced that they've been put together.
Definitely, they look like they're having fun. I saw a great interview where Dom was saying he got put into the group chat straight away and stuff like that. Like, it sounds like they're really kind of, like you say, having fun with it. Working well together, and I loved every single part of the Judgment Day in this Men's Rumble. Quickly get to another comment here from Johnny Black. I feel like the Men's Rumble could have been a little bit more than that, and the whole thing was a bit expected. I had big expectations for some possible appearances, but it was fine, I guess. Look, I agree with you there, Johnny. I think it was a letdown as far as the whole kind of surprises go. We got Booker T, which was a nice little moment. We didn't get him commentating, which Tom and Skinnett were kind of laughing about, suggesting last night on the build-up show. And then I noticed as soon as Booker came out, that clip from TNA, loads of people were posting it saying, "I wish this happened. I wish this happened." So it's funny to see they were on the kind of same sort of path and wavelength as others with that kind of that thought about Booker T. But Booker T was the surprise. Logan Paul was a good surprise, I got to say. Cody was obvious, and I do think let's start getting towards the win. I'm glad Cody won. I think it's a great story. I think it was fantastic having 1 and 30 in there together. I know some people aren't a fan of it because they think it's
good. I don't think it's ever happened, has it?
It hasn't ever happened. And for it to be Gunther as well, what a story for him. But what I've seen is what some people don't like is that I think it made it look a bit silly for Cody that he couldn't even be a guy that had been in there that long, sort of thing, you know. So I kind of get where you're coming from there, but also they built Gunther really, really well. Cody got battered in this match. Like it was a tough end to the match for him, but it was I thought it was very well executed. You know, the homage to his brother Goldust, of course, as well. Shattered Dreams, but yeah, I just overall thought it was really good. I think it was annoying that he was number 30, if I'm honest. I think I would have preferred, because we talked a lot in the build up to this show, like, should it be a surprise? And I kind of, you know, saw it as the Triple H route in 2002. You come back, we know you're coming back, we know you're in the Rumble, and this is it. But we hadn't had that pop yet, although we did get it with Triple H at MSG. We didn't have it at Cody, so it was going to be at the Rumble. What I would have liked is if he was either number 1 or he was still a surprise. Like, I don't know when it is. It's Cody, but I don't know when he's coming out. At least give me the kind of, oh, he's number 17. Like, rather than going, oh, Cody's next. Like, that was annoying. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I like the story of 1 and 30. I get the, you know, yeah, it's a tough one. But yeah, I definitely see the kind of the frustrations. It was a little underwhelming, I got to say, when you go to surprises, and because it was obvious. But at the same time, sometimes the obvious thing is okay to do. And that's especially okay if you've got big surprises elsewhere, which in some ways we didn't. Didn't get a Rock, but we did in the sense of we had a beautiful ending to the show. But yeah, what are your overall thoughts on that kind of stuff, Rob, especially with the Cody Rhodes element?
I'm half and half. Cody coming out of 30, I guess it makes sense. He's just come back from the pec fit, like the pec damage and having, you know, and all that.
That's the thing. Yeah, was he back late because he won a lot? But like I said, he was hard hitting, man. So he might as well have been in there for an hour.
Well, yeah,
and just not face Gunther, you know.
But do you know what? What I love is, okay, Cody coming at 30, and normally if you come in at number 30, I don't want to say it's an easy win, but most of the guys are gone. When he come out, there was a lot. There was like, let's say, there were 8 guys in the ring. So after we finally got through to that, and it was 1 and 30, so Gunther and Cody left. It felt like we then got to see the entire Royal Rumble match, and then we got Cody versus Gunther as a separate match on a 1-on-1. And I felt like they put Cody through hell just for him to get to that Mania spot. So it's not like he was just coming in and throwing him over the top rope.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so as gutting as it is that he was number 30, I think the story of him going against Gunther and that build is great. And do you know what? Honestly, if at some point, if Cody wins at Mania, and one of the first people is Gunther that he goes against, I am not against it at all.
Oh, mate, I mean,
I love that.
If that is an advertisement for a future match, then sign me up.
I'm 100% down.
I'm with you on that one there. Quickly going back to some of the surprises, or lack of surprises at least. Johnny Black says, personally, I predicted Cardona and Jay White to be part of this, but at least we got to see Chelsea Green for 1 second. LOL. Yeah, that was a funny moment. Still not quite sure what I think of that myself, but we'll get to that in the women's one. But going back to the men here, I do feel like Cardona just played up to the hype, and props to him. We said it last night. There is always this risk now that people are just going, you know what, I'll retweet that. I'll reply to that. I'll do a little cheeky emoji. I'll kind of play the game and pretend. You know, people did it last year as well. It's happening more and more now. Get your name out there. And then people aren't annoyed at you for not being in it. They're annoyed at the WWE, if anyone. So it's kind of a win-win for you know. So I think, hey, play the game. No pun intended. Jay White, I didn't see happening just because, although if any time there's a whole working relationship, it could be now because of Carl Anderson at Wrestle Kingdom, but I still didn't think it was likely. Jay White gets rumored every year, as does any big New Japan star, because their contracts tend to run out around Wrestle Kingdom. So you get Wrestle Kingdom where they got a big highlight on them, and then their contracts run out, and then the Rumble comes up. So January is always a hotbed for kind of, will this New Japan star jump to WWE? But hey, it's a shame because I'd love to see Jay White in that environment. More so because, as we said when we covered New Japan, I'm not watching New Japan as much as I used to. So if that's going to be the case, bring them over to a show I am watching. Or make enough noise over there that I do come and watch it. Not just Jay White, but the promotion overall. But hey, that's another conversation for another day. And we've had that conversation on our instant reaction to the Wrestle Kingdom show that happened earlier in this year. So check that out on this channel as well. But yeah, quickly get to another comment here as well from Johnny. Cody won. Great drama against Gunther. I agree. Yeah. So I think general consensus, everybody seems pretty happy with what happened to Gunther here. I think it was such a great showing for him. But yeah, I know you've touched on the Cody and Gunther stuff already, Rob, but again, just touching quickly on Cardona, Jay White, and it being somewhat lackluster when it comes to returns.
Look, the returns weren't the best. I think the fact that we had the graphics showing that we had loads of people already now announced, it's one of those where you think, well, who's coming in? Logan Paul, I think, weirdly, it was the bigger shock because we spoke about Booker T literally on the build up. No one said Logan Paul.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't believe it when he came out. I was like, why don't I think of that? Like, because about 2 weeks ago, I remember thinking, I wonder if Logan Paul's going to be in it, but. I'm so shocked that none of us even brought it up last night.
Yeah, but that's one thing. I do have something coming off the back of Rumble though, as an idea of what I would love to see is obviously we've now got Elimination Chamber, right? So far we've had Gunther stand toe to toe in the Rumble, one against Lashley, once against Bobby, and definitely Sheamus and Drew.
Ooh,
so.
Okay.
What if we was to have an Elimination Chamber match for the IC title? If there was to book it and put all them big men in it.
Oh my gosh, that is beautiful, Rob. I loved when the Elimination Chamber and the Hell in a Cell had been used to tag titles as well. So I'm all for moving it away from the main title because don't think
it makes that title credible as well.
Yeah, definitely. If that title gets those people, the caliber of those people going after it in a match that big, mate, beautiful. And sometimes the chamber helps the road to WrestleMania. Sometimes it hinders it, in my opinion. So if that's going to be the case this time, again, we don't know what's going on there. I'm sure we've got plenty of time to talk about Roman Reigns and stuff like that. But hey, if this is one of the years where the chamber could get in the way rather than kind of help the story, then I say I'm all about keeping it in there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have a look. Well, I think it's probably time to start moving into the next match. I don't think there's anything else we really need to talk about here. Cole was really good, by the way. Michael Cole was really good with his kind of references and stuff like that, but also just what he was talking about with Cody Rhodes. The undeniable quote that Cody had done before, but also just what was the other one he said? American Nightmare on the way to the American Dream and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was really, really cool seeing all that as well. But yeah, the match overall, a little bit underwhelming when it comes to surprises. A little bit obvious, of course. Well, I say more than a little bit obvious when it comes to Cody Rhodes. But yeah, overall, man, a good Royal Rumble. Johnny Black also says, did Gunther set a new record for his time in the Royal Rumble? He did. I think it was 1 hour and 7. I think it was 1 hour 7. I really, really enjoyed Gunther's work in this, and what a way to shine light on the Intercontinental Champ. Yeah, I don't think the IC Champ should be winning the Rumble because that would take away from the IC title, ironically. But to have the IC Champ look this good, yeah, I'm all for it, man. So, let's see where we go with Gunther. Let's move on, though, to the next match, Rob. I think it's time to talk about the match that we were very confused about, not just last night, but for the past few weeks when they were promoting it. And of course, that is the Pitch Black match between, of course, Bray Wyatt and LA Knight as well. I thought for what it was all right. It weren't long, and to me, that is a good thing, but also a bad thing, because I think it kind of it didn't make LA Knight look good, in my opinion. I know what you were saying, Rob, before, that LA Knight is doing so well at the moment that he could probably get away with losing. I don't know if that's the case when you lose so easily and so quickly. You could argue, well, it's not that easy. There were weapons, there were exploding tables with glitter bombs on it. But realistically, this was LA Knight's first big moment on the main roster, in my opinion, and he lost quite quickly and quite convincingly. So that's my only concern with this one. I do think he has a powerful presence and character that he could survive. But yeah, not too sure about that. Jolly says LA Knight looked like a firefly. I think you're right with that. Lovely gear. I gotta say, this pitch black stipulation confused him. I'm sure it was a horrible thing to watch for the people in the stadium, but on TV it come across quite well. I hate the idea of branded matches. Well, actually, you know, if I'm in business and I'm working there, I love the idea. As a fan, I don't like it. It annoys me. And the big Triple H, I think, even in the press conference, mentioned how like it was commercially one of the best as far as partnerships and sponsorships. Yeah, no surprise. You named a match after a drink. There's no surprise in that. You got a big paycheck for that, and rightly so. Don't get me wrong. They should pay big money for something like that, especially if you could potentially derail a storyline, which I kind of think they did in a little bit here. But they did what they could to get the best out of it. I thought Bray Wyatt was a bit confusing, coming out looking like Shayna Baszler with that makeup, but turns out he was wearing more than just the black eyeshadow. He was wearing some kind of luminous paint that you couldn't even see, and that looks incredible, Rob.
Yeah. So I messaged, the minute I see it, I messaged you, because you know I'm all about like face paint and masks and all that sort of stuff.
As the people can tell watching this.
But man, at first I thought we had like panda eyes. You know when Bruce Wayne takes off the cowl and he's just like Batman's eyes. It looked like that.
Yeah.
And then we got to see Bray with the glow. Firstly, love the makeup. Did you see the V1 or the V1 for the 6?
Yeah.
Clearly that means something now. They're playing into that. Obviously the match wasn't the best. Like not much really happened. However, I don't think this was about the match. It was about getting the win over LA Knight, and then the whole thing was building up to what happened next. Because that next mask, oh my goodness,
yeah, that was cool. That was a cool shot. That the fact he just came on and he kind of looked completely different. It's like he transformed, sort of like, you know, Fiend-esque, where he can turn into different versions of himself. A great comment here as well from Johnny Black. Once again, thank you for your comments, mate. And anyone else watching live or on demand, get them in. We want to know what you thought of the Rumble overall and about the subjects we're talking about here as well. But he says, I think this match was a nice and quick way to welcome Bray back in the ring action and make him look powerful again. 100%. I couldn't agree more with that, mate. I think if anything, what it did was, highlight Bray, make him look good, because that was the risk, weren't it? You know, making Bray look bad when it's his first match back in about 2 years after the kind of ups and downs we've had with him, and also making LA Knight look bad after just getting his gimmick back and finally getting a chance on the main roster properly, you know? So it was risky for both of them. But the best you can do is at least make it work for one of them and damage control with the other one, you know. And I think what they did with Bray, it was the perfect way to make him look good. He looked fierce, he looked strong, he looked powerful. LA Knight played up to it with the fear at the end. And of course, we had the massive stunt to end it as well. Now, the stunt itself didn't look great. I don't understand what Uncle Howdy was doing. Is that a move? Why would Uncle Howdy do that? And again, going back to my predictions, Rob, I've got to say I'm a bit annoyed here because, of course, I wanted, I was hoping that it would be Alexa Bliss is helped by Uncle Howdy, and Uncle Howdy costs Bray. And obviously, it was kind of the reverse of that. Well, it didn't cost Bliss, but it didn't have anything to do with it until after the match. But we'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, hey, I liked the spectacle of it. I liked the Firefly characters kind of peeking their heads over it. But it did. Why is Uncle Howdy up there? And why is he jumping? Like, as a person, I know they're not thinking straight. They're wacky characters, but what in Uncle, like it seemed hokey. It seemed like Uncle Howdy seems this kind of, I don't mean grounded in reality, but I mean grounded on the floor. He feels like the kind of characters like kind of slow and methodical and kind of like might strike to get you, but he ain't Jeff Hardy. And suddenly it was Jeff Hardy, like or Shane McMahon. Why? Like, I didn't get that. Is he a luchador? Is he a stuntman? What's going on? Like,
I don't know.
Not a fan of that, if I'm honest. I would have. I don't know what I would have preferred, but it blew up. It is what it is. It looked like he overshot it. These things are hard to film. Can't you get away with it in some sense? But I think the overall this match, just a lot of people come out of it going, It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but yeah, it was what it was, you know, like, which isn't great, I'll be honest. Like, this isn't what I expected with Bray, and I don't want to get too much in storyline with Bray, and we spoke about it a lot last night on the build-up show again, so I know we're building up to a PLE when we do those, but we do get into some quite deep conversations that kind of go beyond the show themselves. So if you do get a chance, guys, check that out. We had some fantastic guests on the show last night as well, and if you don't get round to it, we'll be back for a build-up show for the next PLE as well. Of course, the Chamber. Now, yeah, with Bray, though, you know, we were kind of debating whether or not it's been too slow, or, you know, are the fans being impatient now that we want long-term storytelling, we finally get it. And I think a great point was made by Andy last night that this feud and Bray has suffered by not having a PLE between Survivor Series and now. You know, there was no day one and there was no TLC. You know, whatever pay-per-views in that way, in that kind of part of the calendar, it should have been something, in my opinion, because I think that dampened the Rumble as well. Everyone was like, wow, Rumble's going to be so... And it was great, but it was like, it's going to be massive. This is like an 8-week build, and it was a decent Rumble. Like, but I kind of think, all right, we're kind of getting somewhere with Bray now, but it still feels like, okay, but you need to tell me what's going on soon. Then I need some Uncle Howdy progression on Raw. Like, I need something really soon, because especially with the Alexa thing, and again, we'll get to that later on. But for me, it's like, we've got somewhere, but we need to get it moving now, because it has been really slow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was weird. I mean, firstly, I'm confused by, was it like glow in the dark peanuts? Is that what? So
whatever it was that exploded. Yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea. It was something.
Hey, it looked like Naomi's entrance as well. By the way, you know, a few of us were kind of mentioning that online as well. But yeah, that was.
I see that, and in comparison to the Batman and Robin, the goth ninja.
Oh, I saw some
favorites. That it was weird. But I'm not against it. Like, if they're gonna, basically, it was essentially what we said. It was a no disqualification match in the dark. That's literally what it was. It was a no disqualification match in the dark. And we kind of between us said that's most probably what it's going to be. There's not going to be an over the top gimmick. I think, but you're right. But they were put with a gimmicked match because of the promo, and they've done the best what they could. But as Johnny said, it was a way to just bring Bray back and just get him in a ring. I think the stuff that came after that was more important than the fact that he had a match in the ring.
Because I was like, why are we continuing this? Like, it's like he got an easy win and then it carried on. I was like, what? Like, the match meant nothing in the end.
Yeah,
because they were still going to throw him off the thing.
Yeah. Exactly, but you're right. It was a little bit weird. It was a bit clustered with the plan. But the Uncle Howdy jumping off, I have no idea. It felt like he was jumping on him to send him to hell. That's how I got the impression, because of the explosion and then falling down.
Yeah, well, I liked having the little the upside down firefly or whatever it is, mosquito like thing on the. Did you know it was on like a little bucket or something as it went by, or like I can't remember what it was, but the logo was on that, and I was like, oh, something's happening here. Like, it took a little bit away from it when you saw the Royal Rumble merch stand behind, but other than that, it was confined to its own little space.
It was good, but props to Bray though, because Singapore cane shots in general leave a welt, and this guy got him hit on the on the top of the shoulder and by the. I mean, I wouldn't want to take one. They look like it hurt.
They sting a little. They're not that bad. I got to be honest, Rob. No, it's not like I'm just being like, oh, but no, the ones I've been hit with, which sounds like I've been in some kinky stuff. It was for wrestling, trust me. It makes a noise. It's sort of like a light tube. They kind of make a big sound, and you know they can be very dangerous if it goes wrong. But it's more of a explosion.
The thing is, though, for me, it was a spectacle. Like it done what it needed to do. We got Bray Wyatt back. All the fans can stop moaning now. Well, I say that, but then fans are going, "Oh, well, Howdy missed." Yeah, but that wasn't Bray. Bray didn't miss the jump. Howdy did. If you're gonna moan about Howdy. But because it's associated with Bray, you're moaning about Bray. Like, and that's what annoys me about wrestling fans. Just shut up and enjoy the moment.
Yeah. I also think we were talking about last night that clip on SmackDown didn't look like it was Bo or whoever was the first Uncle Howdy or first two or three of them or whatever, if it has been different people. I think last night was just a stuntman, and I think that might have been why it went wrong.
Did it look like he was going to jump first before Bray was in position? Did you see that?
Yeah, he was kind of lingering over.
It was kind of, you know, when someone goes,
yeah.
He kind of done that, and then
it
Bray got in
very
position.
Strange. Very strange. It wasn't terrible, but I don't get it. You know, I think that's the summary for me. I don't get it yet, and I hope I do soon because
we'll get it.
We can only be cryptic for so long.
I'm down. I'm 100% down. As I said, it seems like me and Dom are the only ones that are interested in what's happening.
Yeah, once again, thanks to Dom for joining us last night. Because a big fan of Bray. You can check out more Dom stuff at Give Me a Hole. Yeah, but yeah, it was. I know what you're saying. You two are majorly into it, I think, compared to the rest of us. I'm into it, but I'm a little bit more critical, I think, or a little bit more impatient, I guess, is what I would say. So,
unbelievable.
Yeah, Johnny Black says, I'm not afraid about LA Knight. His character is designed to endure losses, so we'll move on easily. Yeah. I would agree in the sense that I guess it works because he's a babyface and he's a kind of cheeky on the mic and whatever else and kind of stuck up and whatever. So that kind of works in that sense. But if it happens too many times, there's the risk of, well, you're not that good then, are you? You know, so you keep talking about being cool and great, but you keep losing. So there's a risk there. But yeah, one loss ain't bad. I get what you're saying there.
No, you could. The thing is, you can take a loss and then build from it. But I feel like maybe there's a little bit more with this Bray stuff to go, and then.
Do you think LA Knight continues with Bray? Because I don't.
There's a potential, but then if he doesn't, where does he go? Because he doesn't like it.
Where do both of them go? This is always awkward before Mania. Where do you go?
I think if we get it on this run up to Mania, I think enough LA Knight will disappear for a while. He'll come back. Because remember last time he disappeared and he said it was Bray kidnapped him and it wasn't. It was Howdy and all this sort of stuff. So I feel like there's a little bit more of this story to tell with LA Knight.
I'm just disappointed that Howdy's buddy with Bray already. I feel like Howdy should be going against Bray and then eventually join Bray or whatever.
I don't think that was... So the Bray that was talking... So this is the way I'm looking at it, right? Now, I could be wrong, and I don't want to use the Wyatt 6 thing because I feel like all the Firefly Funhouse characters and all that. There's so much going on that you can't comprehend it. But I think as a character, there is no Fiend anymore.
Yeah, he actually said he doesn't want to do that anymore.
No. So the Fiend died at Mania. He won't do the cult Bray, but without Brody, which I 100% respect. And I think, out of love for Cody, that was with Brody, that was something that they done together. So we don't get the cult Bray. So this is like the Fiend and the cult of Bray mishmashed together.
Yeah.
And this is what we're getting. So this is when the person that was talking in the ring all that time has been Wyndham. Now we're getting this build up to this is Bray. This is Bray. And now because the minute Taker handed over LA Knight to him, and then he done the Sister Abigail, something then happened. So I think I don't want him to bring Taker into it, but I think that was the thing for right. It's now unleash it, because before, how did Sister Abigail Bray? So it's like knocking sense into him. So I think this whole thing is like not acknowledge me, but embrace the hate and all that sort of stuff. And it's the way they're building it. So I think what we see last night was a small glimpse of this new Bray or whatever it is. But I don't know. A part of me is like, I want to see more of these pitch black matches because it's weird. But the mask.
I don't know if you're the only person that said that. Not like it was terrible, but it just.
I just think for the story of the character. Like the character.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah. But maybe he'll do that in the entrance, or like when he wins a match, or
maybe
when he's hulking up, something like that. But
but I'm for it. But I just want to see if this is what we're getting with Bray and that face paint and the mask and all this sort of stuff. And the only way we're going to get that is through these like neon moments. Then give us the neon moments. If that is what builds this character,
it did look cool. It did look like a new beginning for him.
Oh,
so
100%.
A new mask and whatever else. Again, I was really shocked by the eyeshadow. I thought, okay, it was kind of basic, isn't it? And then all of a sudden, there we go. He's got a hidden face paint going on as well. Johnny's got a great comment for us here as well. Now the Elimination Chamber is a great chance for LA Knight to go on. If an IC title match happens in the chamber, so he's okay, but that's a good point. I wouldn't be opposed to him being in that. He's the odd one out in the sense that he's a big guy, don't get me wrong, but he's not like the others. But he feels like you want to put the IC title on someone like this. So I wouldn't mind if he won the IC title in the chamber and though something happens in the chamber that then leads on to the bigger guys as in quite, big hench guys, face off against each other. The hard-hitting guys face off each other at Mania or something like that. So who were the ones you ran through earlier on? Let's see. We got more space, I think, right? We got Gunther, Drew, Sheamus, Bobby, Rock. LA Knight. I'm all for it. I think that would be good.
The only thing is, LA Knight is the smaller guy there. Like, if we're gonna have these guys,
but he could be the cocky, smart heel, and he's good at different things. That's why Rey Mysterio can face Great Khali. Do you know what I mean? They got different things. So
but I get it, and
I know if it's all focused on the size of the guys, he would. For me, that
matchup is just 6 guys just smacking the living daylights out of each other, and basically one of us is winning, and that's it. And if it puts over Gunther and then it builds up to something at Mania for him, great. I would rather see LA Knight and Gunther, let's say, for example, at Mania, because it was that build up as opposed to throwing him in there. That's like throwing like a chicken in a den with like 6 dogs and going survive. It's just not going to
it's not that much of a stretch for LA Knight to beat those guys, but I get what you're saying as far as marketing, that they are all kind of similar. But hey, here we go. Johnny Black says the pitch black match reminded me of the red light match of the Fiend, by the way. We were saying this last night that we hoped it wouldn't. And although I'd agree with you that, it actually does remind me of that. I think it was handled a lot better. The red stuff was awful. Hated it. And but then again, the complaint there was that people in the audience hated it. And I reckon people last night hated that as well.
What was worse, though, was people among, like, the red light matches were bad for the Fiend.
Sin Cara's ones were terrible.
Yeah, but we had a red light match for the Fiend inside of Red Hell in a Cell, so no one could see anything.
That was
so
terrible.
That was bad enough.
Yeah. All right, let's move away from the negatives here and start picking up on some more positives. Where we move on to, would it be the women's match here?
It would be. Yeah.
I think it is. Yeah, the women's title match. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the women's title match. Of course, we're talking about Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's Championship against Alexa Bliss. Now, again, going back to our predictions, annoyingly, I thought Alexa was going to get helped by Uncle Howdy and embrace.
I told you it'd be the other way.
Kane would have, but hey, all right, whatever. But anyway, at the end of it, we do get a little segment that kind of makes her kind of think, what's going on there, by watching herself on the screen being evil, Uncle Howdy and stuff like that as well. I'm not sure if Bray was actually on it, but obviously it was referring to him at least. This match itself, though, not a bad match. I've seen a few people say online they don't have the greatest chemistry, but I enjoyed what they did. I thought it was a decent match overall. I do think, and again, I've said it a few times now, as much as I think Bianca's great, I think there was a chance to shake things up here because Alexa Bliss is clearly one for the spotlight going forward, that they want to go back into this spooky stuff with her. So if that's going to be the case, it's a good chance to freshen things up and take that. You could argue with a character like that, she doesn't need the title, so I understand that viewpoint as well. But I don't know where Bianca goes from here with the title. Again, there's a risk of becoming stale, and I guess that is kind of something to talk about when we get on to the Women's Rumble. But overall thoughts on this match, mate? What did you think between Bianca and Alexa?
I don't want to badmouth the match, but what it was good. Like, it done what it needed to do. The problem was it was following the Mountain Dew match.
Yeah.
And people were so baffled by that. And then we had literally an Uncle Howdy per character, or a story of one arc of part 1. And then Alexa Bliss essentially is the part 2 of this. So going in, I was like, okay, the build's good. And Bianca's parents were there at ringside, and we got to see that. And the whole build, and it was fantastic. I loved the build for it and all that. But I just felt like the match was just a SmackDown match. It didn't feel special to me. And I know between both of them, they have a lot more to give.
Yeah, so I think but maybe they know that. They're in the middle of a stacked card with a lot of expectation.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be real, as sad as it sounds being a women's title match, they weren't the highlight. There's been times where that has been, WrestleMania 35, the main thing was the women's titles. But here, and that's okay. Same as here, like Bray a few months ago was the most exciting and important thing in wrestling. All of a sudden, he's in a random sponsored match. And again, that's, in my opinion, not great booking. But at the same time, they also probably knew that this isn't the time to go all out with that, So, and just, another great example of that is that title matches are always awkward at the Rumble anyway. They always feel that they could be a spanner in the works, or they could be sowing the seeds to something exciting. but they depend on each other. But 9 times out of 10, they are a kind of placeholder to get that champion to the proper feud that's coming afterwards. So you don't often see, as far as I recall, titles change at the Royal Rumble. So there we go. So that's probably a big part of it as well. But yeah, I'm with you. Wasn't the greatest match, but again, they're up against a lot of things, and I think they have a lot more to give. I don't think that's a kind of negative on the two performers. Johnny Black says, feel like they've run out of ideas for Bianca and the title, and they mixed it with Alexa's whole story with Wyatt. Great build, but mediocre match. Yeah, I think kind of general consensus there, especially what you were saying there as well, Rob, with regards to the build and the match and its delivery as well.
Like it done what it needed to do. It served its purpose. It wasn't a bad match. It wasn't the worst match we've ever seen. I mean, if we went back at the list of matches that Bianca's had, this is still up there with one of her best ones. Like, it was a good match. I don't think, even on a bad day, Bianca and Alexa couldn't have a good match together. Like, do you know what I mean? They just couldn't have a bad match. On their best day, they still couldn't. They are fantastic in the ring.
Yeah.
The only thing is with Bianca, as Johnny said, they are running out of ideas. And I said this last night on the build, like the hype build up, that if you're running out of things to do, then just turn Bianca heel. Yeah. And then you've got a dynamic of, well, we've got a heel Bianca going against whatever's going on with Alexa Bliss. That story can last because Bianca, let's say, for example, Alexa embraces Howdy, and then it's a build up of you. The only way you can beat this is by hating me, and then it builds up like this, and then we get this whole build up of Bianca and Alexa that can run till Mania, because that's a story worth building, and it's a slow. Again, people don't like a slow build, and they want it tomorrow, but we don't need to have that all at the same time. But I think if you're going to do something, Bianca Belair as a heel is a move that you can do. Obviously, our stock will drop because of the way fans, if you know what I mean. Like,
it'd be about the person she faces more than her, but in some sense.
In the process, NXT Bianca Belair as a heel was something different. We said the same thing about Asuka. We said the same thing about a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? So, like, do it because it makes sense to. If you can't think of anything and you don't want her to be this babyface anymore because she's overcome all these odds, sometimes I can't remember. Is there a saying? You either die being a hero or live long enough. So if she's now overstepped becoming the hero, then you have to put the villain. The only other person I could think of that would be a great bout of some point, Lacey Evans. That's someone that I would like to see, especially with this new attitude and there was sort of stuff and what she done in the Rumble. Bianca going against that, overcoming another odd would be a good story.
What I will say though about Bianca, and the one thing that could still be fresh, is Bianca versus Rhea, which is very likely now, of course, now that Rhea's won the title. Won the Rumble. But maybe again we'll get into a little bit of that later on, because unlike the men's, where I guess you could do the, is it for one title, is it for two? But actually, I think I made a note earlier on. I think it was that Cole actually said this was for a shot at the undisputed title. That could have been the slip of the tongue, but if we take that as kind of gospel, so to speak, then that means Cody's going for both titles. So we'll see how that goes. But basically,
they announced that in the match that it was for both titles as well.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's the case then. So that means the only one where we can go, where's this going, is the Rhea Ripley one. So we'll kind of touch on that in just a bit as well then. Johnny just touching on the Bianca Belair stuff as well, as dropped us a comment saying the only way to turn Bianca heel is against Becky Lynch babyface. Maybe hit her from behind out of nowhere, something like that. That's a good point. If you've got a mega babyface, Becky Lynch, then that's an opportunity. But then it does go back into a feud that we've already repeated twice. So that's the
problem is, I'm down for that. I mean, if they do the damage control, is that right? Damage control.
Yeah, you said it right that time. Not control damage. I don't know what you're thinking.
Same thing.
Johnny also says he likes the whole respect thing between them, so it really adds into the trail.
Let's say we got, because the build is basically Becky versus Bayley and damage control there. So if Bianca come out and was to help Becky and then instantly turn on Becky, great, because now we get the heel Bianca. The problem is it's heel Bianca versus Becky. Literally, it's the same matches, but the dynamics.
It's too close to Mania.
You would have to build it that way.
I actually think that we probably will get, and I hope we do now, Becky versus Bayley, because we've been saying for years, we need the women's division to have stars and feuds that aren't dependent on the title. And it feels like we might actually be getting that now. If there's any time to do it, it's with, and any people that could carry that, it's 2 of the 4 horsewomen and 2 of the kind of biggest names in the women's, women's history, not just of this generation. So for me, it looks like we might be getting that. And of course, the other one affected by that title picture, of course, is Rhea Ripley winning the Royal Rumble. So I think that's a good time now, mate, to get into the women's Royal Rumble. And again, I was saying last night on the build-up show, I said it on the preview and predictions episode we did as well. And again, guys, if you're new here, basically what we do is we do a preview and predictions about a week before the event. On the night of the event, we do a build-up show to get yourself and ourselves hyped up for the event. And last night was fantastic. We had so many guests popping on as well, special guests, our friends in the wrestling media, to kind of bring their opinions as well. And I think we all had a really fun time, and everyone at Watch seemed to appreciate it as well. So thank you very much for that. Again, if you haven't already, check them out, because although they are previewing an event, they are still quite fun, because there's about 3 hours of us going deep into topics that go beyond the Royal Rumble as well. So yeah, if you do get a chance, then check out our build-up show. But of course, a big part of that build-up show was talking about the 2 Rumble matches. And now for me, as I said, the women's one just felt underwhelming, and I think it's because it's such a thin roster, and there was so much going on in the men's one. But I have to say the match itself did deliver. I thought it was really good. Again, as I said earlier on, they shouldn't have to depend on NXT call-ups. They're not even call-ups, to be fair, because they're not staying up, I don't think. However, many of them showed they definitely could. For me, they shouldn't have to depend on that, but the fact they could was a blessing in disguise. It worked out really well. You said earlier on, some of these people really performed beyond what I think people expected as well. A few kind of standouts for me in big moments that I kind of mentioned before I hand it over to you. We had Natalya returning, which was nice as well, going after Shayna Baszler. We had Asuka, of course, with the kind of return of Asuka, but the darker side, the Kana kind of thing that we were kind of talking about last night. Johnny brought up earlier on, we had Chelsea Green with the 1 second. We had Piper Niven returning as Piper Niven, not Dewdrop anymore, or even Viper. We've got Piper Niven, and a great spot, Michelle McCall. I know some people were a bit annoyed about it, thinking, she happened to be in her gear. For me, that's fine. If we're okay with commentators standing up and do it, I'm fine with somebody in the audience. However, I did think, wait, who's looking after the kids? I couldn't quite tell what was going on there. And I'm sure she was being responsible. I'm sure they had a plan, don't get me wrong. But Lacey throwing out Vega. You mentioned Lacey earlier on. That bump was crazy. Vega was my pick to be first eliminated. I'm glad I was wrong. They actually gave a good showing here, and it's probably because she had that cross promotion with Street Fighter, and of course the big one in Nia Jax returning as well, which I'm sure we're going to dive deep into. But they're my kind of first kind of thoughts on this Rumble match as far as standout moments. Which ones do you want to kind of pick up on first, mate?
Firstly, this might be controversial.
Go on.
Not that I like to bring controversy to this podcast ever.
Yeah.
I would say there was moments in the men's one that were fantastic, right? However, I think the women's Rumble outplayed the men's Rumble this year. For me, it was so much better.
I don't know if it's so much better, because I think it might edge it for me, but then I start thinking about things like Gunther and Brock going mad, and
yeah, but there were only specific moments. There was, other than the 1 or 2 things that happened in the women's one, every time someone come in, it was just stacked. You didn't literally at one point there was like, well, who's winning? There wasn't a defined. When it got down to a few people, you were saying Cody come out. It was like, well, Cody's winning. No one knew who was winning in this.
Yeah.
For me, this was so unexpected. And then every single woman that came out, when they got to the ring, was ready. Chelsea Green, okay, it made me laugh. She come out and was back. She went in and went over again.
Bit concerning.
Everyone has to have that spot. However,
I know, but it's a bit concerning when it's your big return, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, I've checked on the WWE website, and she is listed as on the roster. She's
but that's what I mean. But is that a way you come back? I don't know. I mean, you can play off of that. Don't get me wrong. MVP played off of a losing streak storyline. Not Curtis Axel. Brandon Myers, Hawkins. That's it. Kurt Hawkins. He played off of that as well, and it can go right. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but I guess there is potential to do something with it. But it is a risk, isn't it?
Remember,
if you're being told you're coming back, and then you're told that, it might sting a little bit.
No. But I think this sets something up, because last night we were laughing about the idea of Chelsea Green having his Karen character.
So, yeah.
So her coming in and going out is the reason for her to start whinging and complaining about it.
Okay, yeah.
So this is, for me, if that's going to be the way they build this character, I'm all in board for it.
Yeah,
because
okay. Something's got to go wrong for her to turn to be like that, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, she has something to complain about. So
exactly.
Yeah. Quickly from Johnny here as well says Johnny Black once again with a comment saying agreed the women's Royal Rumble was better than the men's one, and also says at least we had deserving winners on both Rumble matches. I would agree with that as well, mate. We'll get to the winner, of course, in due course. But yeah, you mentioned Chelsea Green there. Any other kind of standout things you want to kind of dive into before we do get onto the main portion of it?
I mean, Zoe Stark. Fantastic.
You said earlier on, yeah, big fan of her, clearly.
So good. I just think anyone that come up from, or I don't want to say come up, anyone that came from NXT and was put in a Rumble really showed why the NXT women's division is carrying NXT right now as opposed to the men. Yeah. And we don't say that often ever. Yeah. Normally it's just a stacked men's roster and the women kind of a lackluster. This time it's the complete opposite. It's a stacked women's roster on NXT and the men are the ones that are kind of lagging behind. So to see below, I mean, if you don't watch NXT that much, I also don't. But I check in. I like to see what's going on. I like to keep up to date with things. I do watch the pay-per-views because I like to know what's happening in case things like Rumble or the big announcements happen. But man, every single woman that stepped in they done something other than a couple. Michelle McCall, yeah, or whatever. Like she was there at ringside. It was cool.
It's about the moment for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the visual of standing up as a mum and getting in the ring is good as well. I think it's quite a powerful visual, so I like that.
Which I love. What annoyed me, right? And I don't want to bring the women's thing down. Now, do we get onto Nia? Because I have a complaint, and it's not a complaint about Nia.
Yeah, I have several complaints about that. It was so bad.
So this is my criticism. Before I'll get my popcorn ready for your complaints.
Go on.
So look, she went, and everyone moaned that she was a botched wrestler. All she ever done was made errors, and she was dangerous in the ring. Okay, bearing in mind she may have had ring rust. Fine, you get that. The position that she was in, the stuff they done, throwing her over the rope with, and all that stuff. I get it. You get the strongest woman out of the ring. And they do the same thing. We've done it with Big Show. They've done it with Omos. They've done it with Braun. Get the person that's going to cause more damage and there's more chance of winning. Get them out, the bigger threat. That's what they've done with Nia. I love that. My issue was this: they moaned that she was a botch wrestler, and then the one thing all they had to do was get right was let a countdown happen and then play her music. And what did we get? We get her music playing and a countdown. Like you've botched her before she even entered, and then people were complaining about that. So
it's like the Bray and Uncle Howdy thing, because it's by association. People moan about Bray, but it wasn't Bray that did the jump. Here, it's not Nia did that, but people were so ready to jump on Nia and be annoyed. Look, I'm not the biggest Nia fan, but I think she gets piled on way too much. It's just like Charlotte. Like there becomes this narrative that Charlotte's not good because she's had too many titles. Has she had too many title reigns? Yes. Has she had certain things handed to her too quickly sometimes? Yes. Has she beat people that maybe enciphered their kind of momentum? Yes. But it doesn't mean she's not amazing herself. Doesn't mean she doesn't deserve most of the titles she's had, if not half. And it's the same sort of thing here. I think it's really out of order the way people are with Nia. You've got to be fair to her. Again, everyone was like, "Oh no, I don't want to see her back." I didn't. All right, cool. We'll see her back. Like, cool. Let's see how it goes. Fresh start and all that. But like you say, I think she was dealt a bad hand, man. That productive accidents happen. Don't get me wrong. And I'd be so hurt that my big return happened like that.
The thing is, I understand when we say like accidents happen, especially within that, right? In the ring, yeah, I agree. But they'd already done a men's rumble and done 30. Then they got another 20.
I mean, you don't know. It literally, someone could have literally sneezed and their hand jerked. I don't know. Like, we don't know how it happened. Like, I could even imagine. Like, if I was Nia, part of me would think, because she didn't leave on great terms. Part of me might even think, I bet there's someone in it that did on purpose. You know, like, I'm not saying that is the case, but like, it'd be hard not to think that way. I would imagine, you know. So she didn't look too pleased when she come out. I don't think that was just her playing up to the heel character. And I felt really bad for her because there's a lot of scrutiny on her anyway. Whether or not it's deserved in certain ways or not is neither here nor there. I think either way, she didn't deserve that. That was out of order. Again, if it's an accident, look, fair. I'm not saying someone did it on purpose, but what I'm saying is she was dealt a bad hand. It was a series of unfortunate events. And then, my goodness, like Rhea, and again, these things can happen. Rhea tries to slam her, doesn't look good, so she riptides her, and everyone's bigging it up like it looked amazing. That didn't look good either.
It didn't.
I'm not saying I could do it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying like it's a tough thing to pull off. But Rhea's tired. It's difficult. Like maybe you grab someone awkwardly. Maybe this ring rust on Nia's part. Sometimes these things just don't happen and pull off the way they should. But man, to have those 3 moments look crap, I really felt for Nia.
Yeah, I think the only way they could have saved the Riptide didn't look good, but she was able to pull it off, right? Slightly. It wasn't the strongest, but it was like when Brock Lesnar or Cena done an AA, you kind of up and over straight away. If it's the F5, it's up and kind of round quick.
Yeah, it's like an easier version. Like,
yeah.
Like, not an easier version, but one you can pull off.
Yeah. So I'll accept the Riptide. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst.
Yeah.
But her trying to do the slam was bad. So I don't know why they just, her and Zoe Stark didn't just together pick her up and slam her. They could have just done a lift up flapjack. Like they could have. There were the two of the
in the moment,
women.
though, in the moment, you think, "Oh, I've done that wrong. I know what I do. This is a bit safer for me." I think in hindsight, you can go, "Oh, you can even play up to it and go, oh, I couldn't quite do it myself. Can you help me?" or something like that, you know. But I think in the moment, Rhea's just like, I need to get. And again, don't get me wrong, the Riptide wasn't bad. It was like you said, it was like when the Giant got jackknifed. It didn't look like the other jackknives. It didn't look like one against Rey Mysterio.
Exactly.
But it's still impressive that he could do it, you know. Kevin Nash, of course.
Agree.
But so this is great if it was on its own. But the fact it was making up for what was a mistake, I guess, you know, an accident. It wasn't smooth as it was. It just didn't help, and it felt like 3 things in a row where it's like, man, this is Nia's big return. Is it? I think it did her no favors. I think she comes out of this exactly where she was before, where people were just like, I'm not sure about her. And again, people want to hate her. They want to find reasons not to be happy. And I'm fine. I'm not trying to be like that. But even I can't be happy about that return. I'm happy for her as a person coming back. You know, any person getting a big moment like that is great. But a lot of Nia's heat isn't heel heat. It's kind of, I don't like your heat. And again, I've not been the biggest. There's been times where I thought, stop this with Nia. Stop pushing her. This ain't working. She could have done that better. But to act like she's terrible and she hasn't done anything good is disingenuous. And I hate when wrestling fans get like that. But what happened last night, in my opinion, was just a real shame. And it did no one any favors as far as this return goes.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say, though, early on in the match, Ripley, I'm assuming she broke on her nose or something happened. I mean,
I think it was Dana Brooke, wasn't it? Yeah.
You know, and Ripley just still, I mean, she was like number 1, number 2, like she was right in the beginning.
Yeah. She won it for number 1, mate. Big deal.
So,
big deal.
You know, so being able to do that, being like one of the first in the Rumble, and then obviously having a broken nose is reminiscent of not Shawn, but Shawn Michaels when he broke his nose in the Rumble, and he still had to go on throughout the rest. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's an iconic moment, and on top of that, if her nose is broken, she's not breathing through that nose well. She's having to breathe mouth.
Yeah, that's going to make the Nia thing harder. Don't you?
So that's going to be because you need to breathe in when you do a power lift of some sort. Just in general, you breathe in to build yourself up. You don't exhale. So trying to inhale in her mouth when she's already blowing. She's been in a match for like 50, 60 odd minutes.
Understandable that it messed up. Understandable.
So, you know,
just a very unfortunate thing.
It is just unfortunate, but it doesn't look. The thing is, it doesn't look good on. I think it doesn't look good on both of them. It looks worse on Nia than it does Ripley because Ripley won, and the way she won,
and Nia's already got this
exactly. So I feel for her
thing about her. So,
and we were saying about this yesterday, like, what do we feel on Nia? And I was like, well, I'm not against it.
It's not for me. Don't get me wrong. It didn't make me pop. I was happy for her. I don't know.
I think if they didn't watch the entrance, I think the reaction would have been different.
But then saying that, people were already ready to not be happy because there was rumors about it all day, you know. So
I mean,
I think it would have been a bit better, but yeah, they did themselves no favor.
I think it should have come out earlier. It would have been better. But the fact that she come out 30th and a lot of women in the ring still, her eliminating 1 was great. The only thing that wound me up though, there was a few things, but the thing that really irritated me was they'd done a spot of all piling on her, and then bang, then her erupting. Now, Piper is a threat as well, a legit threat. So is Ripley. So is Stark. Why didn't all the other women team up to throw them out as well? That's the only thing. It was like, it was a Nia.
I like consistency.
Do you know what I mean? Like, why was Piper there? Do you know what I mean? Piper and Nia standing off it and having a face off would have been something. We didn't get that moment.
Cool. Like, I guess if it happens to Piper, I think if it's in a normal context and Nia's not returning, it happens to both of them. But because Nia was returning, I think it needed to be her moment. That's why they did it to her. But you know, Piper had her other kind of times to shine in this. You know, she looked really good herself, really dominant. You know, of course, got her name back, got her old gear back as well, pretty much. You know, so it's looking good for her now. I do think this is an opportunity to kind of reset, really, because she's a fantastic performer. I gotta say, mate, a fantastic human being. I did have a opportunity to have a chat with her a while ago when she had just got the G-Shot name, and she actually convinced me as to why she was okay with, like, you know, changing her name and her character and stuff like that. But I've got to say, I'm glad to see this version of her back. But if you do want to kind of hear her thoughts on it at the time, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure she was trying to be optimistic and kind of a company person and stuff like that. But I do, she won me over with her thoughts there, basically. And of course, that's changed anyway. She's no longer playing the character Dewdrop. But it might give you a little bit of an insight as to the person behind the character, because she was really kind of sweet in that interview, but also really kind of thoughtful and interesting. You know, it was interesting to hear thoughts kind of on her kind of the way she looks at her character and the way she looks at her presentation. So yeah, give that a chance if you haven't already, guys. Let's start winding down on the Women's Rumble, because we've got to move on to, of course, the main event. But let's any other kind of big moments you want to mention on the Rumble before we move on to, I guess, talking about the actual final spot and the final victor?
Just look, I said it last night. We've said it numerous times on this podcast, on the Talking Beans podcast, when we've done reviews and stuff on, like, just shows in general, and the women get to display everything that they're doing, and from an athletics perspective and a visual perspective of how good they've got and the generation of wrestling that we've got now. And I'm just so happy, like, to be able to witness all 30 women enter the ring. And okay, there was bits and pieces that didn't look right, but they all looked like they deserved to be in that ring.
I think this might be a historic Rumble that we look back on, because I think not only was it a good Rumble, not only was it someone like Rhea who deserves it and looks like the future, like bona fide the future, her and Bianca are the top ones. You know, I think everyone makes comparison with Rock and Austin, you know, that sort of thing. It feels like a real passing of the torch. We had the stars as far as, you know, the ones that have been self-made, as Bayley and Becky and stuff like that. But they went out earlier and they've got different feud going on, it seems. And we had a lot of these new kind of talents pop up. I think 5 years time, a lot of these people might not even be with a company, but there'll be some of them that we look at and go, this was it. Like when we did a little while ago, guys. If you haven't seen it already, if you fancy going back and watching a classic Royal Rumble, me and Rob did a watch-along review of Royal Rumble 2013, was it? Yeah, 2013, 10 years ago, of course, where The Rock came back, of course, and it was we were saying how it was a real transitional period. So if you do want to watch a classic Rumble, if you're in the mood for that, and you want to watch it along with some guys who want to chat wrestling with you, then check that video out as well. But we go in depth, basically saying that felt like a real transitional period in WWE. And for me, it kind of feels like that with the women's division now. We're moving away from that early women's evolution. It's about the next generation of that now. So and we've still got Bayley knocking around, don't get me wrong. Sasha's gone off to do big things as well. We've still got Becky and Charlotte doing well as well. Don't get me wrong, you have to have your top tier bona fide stars, but it's about time they start stepping back, like John Cena when he became US champion. It's about time we see things like that, I think personally, to kind of to really boost this division. Like, you've got legend, like they're becoming legends. Future Hall of Famers are in the second tier match. And in the top tier are the current stars. We've got Bianca and Rhea. And just coming up behind them, we've got the new stars coming from NXT. So I think this is a really exciting time to see what happens next in the women's division in WWE. Quickly as well, I want to mention Asuka, another kind of top tier name. Again, I've said, like, she always feels like she's the B champion, even when she's the champion out of the two. She feels like the B one. As much as I've loved her over the years, presentation's kind of a bit lackluster at times. She's been a great comedic character at times. But we saw, of course, it was rumored and hinted she was going to have this darker character. She comes out with this different mask on, of course, and then she ends up having new face paint as well, of course. Yeah, harking back to previous days outside of WWE. So, what did you think of Asuka's return there? And any thoughts on my kind of love fest over the future of the women's division?
No, I agree with you. The women's division, again, it's one of these. This is one of these things, right? And I'll say it as a statement where it's of appreciation, but at the same time, I'm going to say it whereas I'm worried for what they do, because just looking at that women's Rumble, the 30 women that went in there, I'm not saying we could have a women's show, because annoyingly, I don't think it would get that 205 live effect. It would be great for a bit, then fizzle out. I don't want to see that. But a women's evolution pay-per-view, why not? Get another one.
They could hold their own. I definitely think they could fill it, but the problem is the main roster is still too thin. They need to pump. If you're going to pump these people from NXT into it, then you need to get good recruits. Or what I think is keep some of them in NXT, move some of them up, and bring in some outsiders that are already known at the moment. There's got to be some big names out there. None off the top of my head that I can think of, but there's got to be some big names that you can bring in from, whether it be Impact, Japan, something like that. There's got to be someone you can bring in to boost Raw and SmackDown.
100%. But I tell you what, it's another one of these things where I feel like at the moment, what's best for the women is we don't have a Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. In my opinion, we have one champion overall of the women, and you combine the Raw and SmackDown. So basically, like the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
Then bring in something to do with like an IC, and then really push the tags. And even if you just use them women, and he was able to flip flop them between NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, and they're the only ones that are allowed to do that when it comes to tag team development, then I'll take it.
Because, this is how bad things have been, mate. I forgot that tag titles were actually active. I thought they were still retired, right? And I nearly said it on the build-up show last night, and I didn't. I forgot to mention it. And then I saw Damage Control come out with them, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I didn't say that. I mean, someone would have corrected me, but I genuinely had forgotten that those titles had been won.
But
so
I mean,
it just shows you
a main title, a mid title, and a tag title, and then just put the women from NXT.
When they're going to compete, there needs to be more women. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. You can move them over and make it a big deal. If it's for the world title, then yes, you have your big names, as you said, Becky, Bianca, Charlotte, Asuka. You put them there, and then you make yourself a mid-card women's division. Because at the moment, they'll just stop in the lost in the shuffle of, oh, well, I'm not doing anything. I want a women's title. I want the Raw one. I want the Smack. Put them in a bracket of the main, mid, and tag. Yeah, and you're set because you have
a nice transitional kind of thing for the characters as well. You know, like the IC is not always used that way. It's in theory supposed to be like that. It doesn't always work that way. Same as talking of theory, the US title as well is supposed to be that way as well. It doesn't always work that way, but when it does, it works really well. And it's supposed to be there as a force to kind of help someone grow. It happened for The Rock. It happened for Austin. It happened for Triple H. And you know, they didn't have bad careers themselves. So exactly. I think
that's my thing. If you're gonna really showcase the women's division, it makes me so happy. When I remember we was talking when we done Talking Beans and Tom was on as well. I was like, oh, the women's division is finally getting somewhere. Or listening back, and we finally got the Iron Woman's match with Sasha and Bailey, and like it was, and the stuff to do with Dusty, and it was for this reason, and it all started from that. And then it fizzled, and then it grew again. And I was like, man, they are so damn talented, and we're not getting the chance to see what they can do. And then last night, that Royal Rumble, there was a few dead spots. The Nia thing, obviously, it can't be helped. There was a few mishaps. But overall, the amount of talent that was in that ring altogether. And I'm thinking, how have we not got the women's division on lockdown right now? And they know exactly what they're doing. And it winds me up.
There's a lot of things that Triple H has had to get in order over the last few months. A lot of things are going to take time. I saw Bailey getting interviewed about that whole thing of Raw 30 and saying, like, it's all right. I know where things are going. Things are good, pretty much. It seemed like she was saying that sort of thing anyway. But we got to remember that the women's revolution, whatever, is something that started in NXT. It was a few things happening on the main roster with Paige and AJ Lee, but it started in NXT. The people we talk about as being future Hall of Famers are NXT products. You know what I mean? So it's we got to remember that. So I think Triple H is definitely the right person, as far as I can tell, to kind of spearhead this kind of new second part, new wind of the women's evolution, because it has become a little bit lackluster lately. So and that's not down to the talent. Exactly that. Yeah, it's a shame. Rhea's great. Bianca's great. We can see what's coming next. But let's start getting there. Do you know what I mean?
Just looking at that Rumble, I can't remember who it was. It was Liv, but she was teamed up with someone, and I'm like, well, look, if you've got a lot of women kind of just standing around doing nothing, and they're not doing anything at the moment, don't put them in catering. Put them together as a tag team. Make them actually become a tag team.
Yeah.
And challenge for them against. Do you know what I mean? Like, do something. We had a women's tag tournament, and we had mixed match of talent, and no one done anything. I mean, at one point we had Liv and Rhea. All right, it wasn't the best, but they made the best out of it. Like, other than, I don't want to go on about the Iconics, but
I was waiting for it. There it is.
Other than them, and maybe Sasha and Bailey, there isn't, or who is it? The Kabuki Warriors. When we had that, there wasn't many. Yeah, there's not many that feel like it. And last night, the amount of people that teamed up at some point, I can't remember who it was, Liv and someone else. And they looked legit like a good tag team. So if you've got nothing for them, just put them together.
Yeah,
let
I hate
them
the
do something.
things,
Build it.
Let's at least do something. If we ain't got a mid card, let's do tag. Let's treat the tag like the mid card.
I want them to make us feel it's as important as the men's, because that's the only way you're going to get them over. The women done it single-handedly all the way through with this NXT stuff, with Finlay, Triple H doing it in NXT, and then we got them, and then at one point they headlined Mania. Since then, we had the Evolution or whatever it was, and it's gone nowhere. I want to enjoy more women's wrestling, and I absolutely love seeing it. But don't take it away from us. Make us want more. And last night was a prime example of, you've got all these women and they're lost. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
and it winds me up.
It highlighted the great things, but also the bad things, didn't it? It highlighted that they haven't been doing much for these people, you know. So
look how good they are.
We could be on the cusp of a second women's evolution, or second phase, or second era in a women's evolution.
I'm all for it.
Let's I keep saying evolution because of the pay-per-view, but I mean revolution, of course. But let's see if we do finally get there.
I hope so.
Right, let's move on to actually how the match ends. Of course, I think it was fantastic. Not sure how I feel about 1 and 2 being the last two, but I thought it was done really well. Liv kept saying she wanted to be number 1. She was number 2. Rhea seemed like the obvious pick. It ended up being the case, and that's okay sometimes. Such a clever ending with Asuka, who I said, even if she comes back, her moment's winning it. It's not coming back. Her moment's coming back, not winning it. I started to go, maybe she could win it. Maybe I wanted to win it. You know, again, I'm a fan of her, but I feel like, I'm worried she might get a stale again. And I started thinking, maybe, especially for my points, of course, you know, I was like, I don't want other people to win with their prediction of Rhea or anything like that. Then again, I think Dan might be the only one that went with Rhea. I can't quite remember, but either way, it was Rhea, and it was handled so well. We had the mist going in the eyes of Alexa, who therefore was nearly on the verge of winning, but couldn't quite see. It weren't Rhea's fault. Rhea's holding on, but Rhea benefits from what Asuka has done because Rhea's ducked. And then basically, Alexa can't find a way back to capitalize on the position that Rhea's found herself in, but Rhea can kind of get her legs up, scoop her down for a head scissors sort of thing to the outside on a crazy looking bump. It was the second crazy bump in the match. That one after the Zelina Vega one as well. But my goodness, what a fantastic ending and a feel-good moment, even though she's a heel, of just knowing that somebody that deserves it has won the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, look, I can moan from a perspective of I didn't get my point, like that for the table.
Yeah.
But we said, like, I was adamant that Liv was going to be in the final 2, and you was like, nah, it's not. And I'm so glad that she was, because it still shows that she's
made it look strong. It made it look strong, yeah.
You know, going forward, she does look great. But I think people have been sleeping on Rhea for a while with she looks good. And all this Judgment Day, and that's the only reason I was like, she's not winning it, because I was so crowded by this Judgment Day and the
Beth Phoenix
stuff, and I was like, it just doesn't make sense right now. But you know what? If the only person in Judgment Day is the woman that's got a title, bro, does that make them?
Yeah.
Does that make her look stronger? So, again, I'm not against that. Man. You know, but the finish itself was amazing.
So good, so well executed. We talk about how these things can go wrong. That could have gone wrong, and it was perfectly executed.
Did you?
So well done to everyone involved.
Did you see the video of Rhea Ripley showing Dominic how to survive the Rumble?
No, I heard about it, but I didn't watch it.
So she was showing, and she was like, "Grab the rope like this, and if you do this, then use your legs like this, and all." And she was doing all this stuff, and then the way she survived was the way that she showed Dom.
Yeah. Oh man, that's cool.
So
that is cool.
Nice little like storytelling there as well.
I really like that.
But yeah, no, like the whole finish was great. And it's just a build up, because you've now got Asuka, Liv, and Rhea Ripley. They were all on the apron. The only thing I don't like is this is like the third time that we've now had the Women's Rumble won via an apron moment. And it's not been a natural throw over the top.
Yeah.
But at least they've done it better this time. The last time we got it was a kick to the leg and an awful fall, I think, by one of the Bellas, something like that.
Yeah, this one was a lot better.
This was great.
Creatively
and then the mist and it was so good. The whole thing was it was executed and delivered exactly the way that you would do it. As in, well, let's tell the story for who's the survivor. And then the smile on her face, like Rhea's face afterwards, just it was like the perfect end to that match. So I'm just happy with the way it finished. It was great.
Definitely, mate. And of course, talking about the winner there, we did get a chance to chat to Rhea Ripley a few months ago, talking all things kind of, a part of her character, really, her music, scaring people at the gym. If you want to hear kind of talk about that, it's quite funny. Creating memes and also things like the Judgment Day and stuff like that. So check out that interview if you do get a chance. We mentioned there, Alexa Bliss, of course, did really well. Sorry, Liv Morgan, I should say, doing really well to come second after being number 2 as well. So I did think the ship had sailed with her. They were talking there about her winning the title, and what a great moment that was. I felt like that went on too long. It should have happened a lot earlier, but it was a great moment either way, and I was happy to see it. And she had a great run. But then it got a bit confusing, didn't it, with Ronda and stuff like that. But now it looks like we are back on track as far as showcasing Liv Morgan in a good way. So again, if you get a chance, check out those interviews. But like I said, I'm very happy to see that Liv felt relevant at the end of this match. You know, I didn't see it happening, but I'm glad she did feel relevant at the end of this match. She looks strong after this.
I see it happening.
Of course you did. All right. Anyway, let's quickly say actually before we do move into the main event. Rhea Ripley, where does she go? I do think we will get more Beth stuff, actually, weirdly enough. But that can happen. It can go on hold. You know, I just thought it wouldn't. I thought we're going to go Beth towards Mania, which is what I would have preferred to see. But then it's a timing thing. Why would I not want Rhea in the main event as a champion or going for the title? Go on.
My worry is that Beth costs Ripley the title at Mania. I think we get something at Elimination Chamber, and then Judgment Stage still get the better of them, and then
I think we might get. We're talking about different chambers, different types of chamber matches. I think we could get a 6-person tag chamber where we get sort of like the War Games, as we were talking about before, could have involved Judgment Day, and you get. I guess who would you get? Maybe Dom. I guess it'd have to be Finn or Priest. It's more likely to be Finn. So let's say Dom, Finn, and Rhea versus Ray, Edge, and Beth. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know, or maybe we just get something just to tide us over until Rhea actually goes into the main event scene again. But because I don't want her to move away from the Judgment Day stuff too much. It's been so fun, so let's try and keep that going as well.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe a Raw she'll declare. This happens sometimes straight away. But who do you think, either way, whether or not we go into a Beth program or not? Who's she going after? Now, for me, the one that makes the most sense is Bianca, because for me, that is about the future and it's such an iconic possible match. The Charlotte one, I'm not against either, because I know some people would be more fearful with that. But the Charlotte one could be another way to cement Rhea as a kind of bona fide start as well. If she's beating someone from the kind of, not the previous era, but, you know, as we were saying, different versions of the women's revolution, different phases almost. And we had that match at WrestleMania before. It wasn't in the stadium like it should have been because of the pandemic. And it kind of ended up being an NXT title and all that kind of stuff as well. But this would be an interesting way to revisit that on a bigger stage. So I'm kind of all for that, but I think I slightly lean towards the Bianca one. Which one do you think it will be, and which one would you like it to be?
I think it makes sense for Bianca because, as you said, that's a good build. But then I think there's more with Bianca to do with Alexa and stuff. Like she could happily do that, and there's a story there in itself with Bianca. I would like to see a heel turn Bianca Belair as the champion. It's saying, well, I've beaten everyone. No one can beat me. And this is that build of, I'm better than everyone. And now she's taking on challenges. And then there's loads of baby faces. So I want to see that kind of side of Bianca.
Yeah.
I think to me, that's as I said, you become the villain. And I think that would be great for Bianca, for my opinion, my booking. I think it's got to be Charlotte though, isn't it?
I mean, there is a possibility that we always say this, the chamber sometimes helps the non-Rumble route get decided, but sometimes it also changes up the Rumble route. Sometimes you can lose the title in the chamber and therefore the Rumble person is going after someone different. So maybe that's what we'll see. Maybe a title will change hands from either of those women. And that's who Rhea's going after. So that's a possibility as well. But judging by the two there, I think I lean towards the Bianca one. But again, I'm not far off kind of being up for the Charlotte one as well. So I understand why you're leaning towards the Charlotte one, but I guess that's more because of what you want to see Bianca do rather than her kind of parallel with Rhea Ripley. So yeah, and I'm with you on that as well. I also want Bianca to be refreshed, but I think now that we've committed to it, she's still champ, we might as well do the future versus the future.
Well, I think as well, it answers and I know I've joked about it a lot, and it has become like a running gag on this podcast, but it does answer the question about, well, you never pinned me for the title, because it was Ripley, Io, and Charlotte at the NXT in your house.
We've joked about it so much. The Triple H come out and said, "Look, it'll make sense in the future," sort of thing. It was a weird kind of triple threat.
So maybe this is where we go.
Imagine, it can't be right after all these years. Come on now. If we go back to that, but but
it's a way to look back on and say,
I wouldn't mind it. Yeah, it would be funny.
There's a build there. There was a build there where Charlotte challenged her for it, Ripley for it, and it made the NXT title obviously at Mania. Obviously, it wasn't the match that it should have been because of no crowds. And then we got into the NXT show, and then obviously it was the windfall and all that sort of stuff. So like, it done what it needed to do, but we just didn't have. There was no crowds. It was missing that energy from the fans. So if we're gonna get it again, I think Ripley versus Charlotte with the energy of the fans at WrestleMania, I am all for that. And I think the storytelling is already there.
But so it's a risk, isn't it? Because Charlotte's a risky babyface anyway, and Rhea is going to be...
I think Rhea will go in as a babyface. Rhea's going in as a babyface.
By them.
I think it'll be a Rock and Hogan moment where I don't want to say it as they're both babyfaces, but we're going in liking both people.
People are going to want Rhea to win it. Especially if
with that happening.
So it's a risky move, but we'll see how they go. They could go out as say maybe turning people and stuff like that. But hey, the next few months are going to be interesting either way. Now it's also going to be interesting for the storyline that involves Roman Reigns, of course, still the champion, but barely against Kevin Owens, because we've got a lot going on here, Rob, when it comes to the Bloodline. Now, I've been looking forward to talking about this all day.
This is where my notes come in.
There we go. Here we go. Now, of course, the match itself is really good. So let's try and focus on the match as well. And then we'll focus on what happens at the end of it. I don't think we'll spend too much time on the match, to be fair, because what happens at the end is it's art. But
it's the bigger takeaway.
We'll get there. So I really enjoyed the match. I'm very impressed with Kevin Owens and his performance. Someone that's kind of like a background part of this story, but been used very, very well because of the story with Sami Zayn. I think he's performed so well, and I think that can't be underestimated. The awkward thing, we mentioned kind of slip-ups earlier on. It'd be wrong for us to kind of give the guys a pass here, but obviously KO slipping, which is a real shame. He went and did a kind of a senton and stuff like that out of frustration. So there we go. It was an unfortunate thing, but again, these things happen. But other than that, it was a very crisp match. The only other thing that made me worry was that ram of Kevin Owens back onto the steel steps. You never really see it like that.
My days.
The fact he did it twice. The first one looked like it actually hit his head, and I was really scared, and I couldn't believe they did it again. But I'm a bit concerned about that. But at the same time, it's a memorable moment. So can I argue too much? I don't know. Especially if he ended up at safe and they were okay. The pop-up powerbomb that kind of got counted into a Superman punch. A fantastic moment. And of course, we had the low blow. Roman won the chair, Sami Zayn, and kind of being hesitant. And of course, that's going to come up in a moment as well. And eventually, of course, you know, Sammy's telling Kevin Owens, pleading with him, just stay down, man. And he doesn't. He gets speared through the barrier. And of course, then we get the steel steps thing. And it just felt too risky to me. But again, it was a spectacle, and I can't deny that. And then, of course, Roman wins fairly comfortably and easily. But then, of course, we'd get something huge after. But again, before we get there, mate, what are your thoughts on the actual match itself? It was a fantastic title match on its own kind of standing.
It's one. I think this is probably the better one that we've had with KO and Roman within the Roman's reign as the tribal chief ahead of the table in this run of Roman. Yeah, everything you've mentioned, obviously I echo that. That's fantastic. What I loved was the ref got shoved. Owens hit the stunner. Obviously we had all of that. Owens hit the stunner a little bit later on. Obviously I went, is it called a phantom count? Is that the right word to say? So we had a free count.
Oh yeah. I guess, yeah.
So a phantom count. If there
great is count as well. The fact that people were so happy to count the free and then be like, "This is an injustice." You know what I mean? That it worked. It's a great spot. It gets over 9 times out of 10 anyway. But this one felt so much more because it was like, wow, Roman's reign could have been over here. but which is so much bigger than so many of the other title defenses we've seen before. But
basically we get the finish of, which is great. It's the spear. The way they booked Owens to look that strong, so he kicked out of so much, and then finally he just couldn't take any more. Phenomenal. You know,
because they destroyed him. He went through the barrier, his head smashing off the thing, like we said twice. Whether it did legit or not, it looked like that at least. So
the first one,
they built him up so well.
It looks so. I know, but the whole build for it was great. Sami kind of wincing in the background every time Owens got hit, and it was great. The whole storytelling, the match itself, Heyman at ringside, Sami at ringside, the crowd behind everything, just everything. Roman's facial expressions to when Sami was going to get the chair and didn't, and then it was, but the whole thing, it was fantastic. Everything about it was great, and then the ending and the way the whole thing finished, it's great. All right, I don't know how to speak.
Let's move on to that, because it is like a lot of people would like say, I said, last night on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling Twitter at RN Pro Wrestling, please give us a follow. But basically said this is art, and a lot of people saying similar things. It's art, it's cinema, and stuff like that, and joking about it and whatever else, and kind of really bigging it up. But I'm serious, man. The feud itself has been incredible. Again, I wasn't sure about Sami. I said it on the Raw review that we did a few days ago. I wasn't sure about Sami kind of being doubted again after proving himself at Survivor Series. I feel like he should have been kind of settled for a bit and then kind of bring the doubts back in. I felt like they went too quick with it. But I can't deny that the execution of what we saw with the trial that night and what we saw on this event was nothing short of like just incredible storytelling. And there were holes in it. How comes Heyman was telling Roman we need Sami on our side and then being the one to go against him? You could argue about stuff like that, but the overall grand scheme of things, and also the Jey Uso thing as well, of like, hold on, you were against him and now you're the one sticking up for him.
Well,
and that's
taken notes.
Confusing.
We'll
get to that. We'll get to that. So let me just explain what happens, because I'm sure you've all seen it. But of course, basically, Roman wants to finish the job. They start battering Kevin Owens. They tie him up with handcuffs. Sami's conflicted. Amazing acting. You said the facial kind of expressions earlier on. Continues here. He basically pleads with Roman, says you don't need to do it. You're bigger than this. You've already beat him. And again, that story between Kevin just works so perfectly. That is Kevin in this scenario, and he played it so well as well. And then of course Roman says, "Well, fine, you do it then, mate." Of course, he ums and ahs. We all know what we hope is coming, and he does hit Roman Reigns. Of course, quite similar to the Shield breakup as well, which I know a lot of people paralleled here. But does that? Jimmy takes him out. Solo takes him out. Jey won't do it though, and we see Jey walking away. And again, that's kind of a brief kind of synopsis really of what happened, but let's break down each and every kind of part of it here then, mate, because I know you got those notes, and I know you're a big fan of the Usos, and I'm sure something like this is something something like this is something that you are going to hold in high regard with, I think, most wrestling fans for years to come. Graham Beresford says that was the best storytelling I've seen from WWE in years. I have to agree with you, Graham. Thank you for that comment, mate. Thank you for joining us here on this stream as well. Again, let us know in the comments, guys, what you thought of the Royal Rumble, and specifically right now, what you thought of this moment here. Because, again, compared to cinema, compared to kind of high art, for me, I know what people say, it's wrestling. Nah, man, this is why I love pro wrestling. This is why I love pro wrestling. So, Rob, take it away.
All right, so basically the note is of the night, but I've got like a whole kind of arc of the way it's been built and everything that's got. So I've kind of just broken it down into little bits, right? Yeah. So at first we get Jimmy and Roman. So Jimmy at first didn't acknowledge Roman, right? And after we had the Jey stuff first. Jey versus Roman was the build. When Jey come back, Jimmy didn't acknowledge Roman, right? And Jimmy had a top saying, I'm not someone's bitch," or something like that. That was the first thing. Jimmy finally acknowledges Roman. That's the next step, right? Then we've got Jimmy and Zayn in this build up and all that. Then we move on to where Sami Zayn comes in. Jimmy and Sami Zayn were tight. They never had an issue. Jey didn't trust Sami. Then we had the War Games moment. Now they're on the same page. Then later on we get the trial. Jey saves Sami, right? And then later on when we get to the Rumble, Sami attacks Roman, and the only person he apologizes to is Jay. Jay then walks out while Sami gets beat down. The only person, and Jay didn't want to acknowledge Roman right at the very beginning, which is why we went through all this stuff. And the only reason he said I quit was because Roman was going to inflict damage on him the same way they did last night at the Royal Rumble to Sami and Kevin Owens. The whole thing from the beginning.
Going back to that Hell in a Cell was unbelievable. My big concern at the time was that, Jay just kind of went, all right, I'm with you now. And they never came back to it. And I was like, something's got to happen. Like, he can't suddenly be okay. And then Jimmy didn't. And then he was suddenly okay. And that's the kind of thing I'm holding on to. Because I think, maybe like you said, all the way back there, Jay didn't want to do it anyway. And he's kind of realized again. Now, we'll talk in a moment about what this means for the future. But like, going all the way back to the start, I love that side of it. But it is conflicting when suddenly he's the most against Sami, then he's the most for Sami, and I'm not sure about that. But hey, there's still areas to go and explore in this storyline, so maybe we'll get more answers as well. But the performances, mate, I cannot deny just how good they were, and the possibility that it does go back to the stuff that you're saying here with Jay being the first one to kind of not be, main event Jey Uso and all that stuff. Mate, I really enjoy it. I think the symbolism of it, like, it felt like I was watching a film, and it felt like I was watching like something like where a character's getting bullied or something like that. You can't help but feel for them, or like they're just getting like literally just beaten up by a gang or something like that. That's what it felt like. It was emotional. It was so like, it's such a good story, storytelling. And the fact is, Roman's a cool heel. We love Roman Reigns. Everybody loves him. We stick our ones in the air, even though he's the bad guy. But last night, those boos and the chants of F you Roman were visceral. They were real, man. They were like, we want to fight. Like, now you were the heel that we genuinely hate because we love Sami Zayn. I thought it was so well done. Everybody turning on Roman, and the way it should be, really. Jericho always argues that the cool heel's not for him because you're a heel. You need to be a heel. I don't want to sell merch. I don't want to do catchphrases. So, like, I'm somewhere in the middle of those two things. So now that we're getting this side of it, where we can go against properly Roman Reigns as a heel because we love Sami Zayn, man, I'm so excited to see where this goes. I'm worried about where it could go, but I'm excited about the potential.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm worried about what comes next because I want them, if they're going to book it, they've now at this moment, it's a big milestone. Let's build from it. Don't decline from it. But there was things there that happened that were just, I mean, I think I messaged you like chef's kiss or something like that a few times. One about Bray and then this. But there was this moment where Sami had the chair and he stepped backwards and Roman was there and Roman slowly turned and the crowd ate that up as he was like,
it might happen. It might happen. They teased it. They teased it.
And I was like, well, if they've teased it, it's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to happen. If they teased it, that's not happening. And then he hit him with the chair. And then Roman's reaction was all the pain that he hit from the chair that he got inflicted with. Then all of a sudden, his face turned from pain to anger. And in that facial change, oh my days.
Yeah, honestly, man, I keep saying it, but it was like a film. It was like the moment that Jimmy goes, nah, boom. Like, you know what I mean? It literally felt like something I've seen in a film. Like Jay going, what? And then out of nowhere, Jimmy goes, nah. Solo comes in. Like I say, Roman turns from pain to anger. Paul Heyman is always incredible. The facial expressions he's got. Sami Zayn is playing. I was even Kevin Owens to kind of play his role and not even smirk, not even go, this is genius. Like, it must have been hard to kind of even hold that in. This was amazing character work. This is amazing storytelling. The performance, physically, emotionally, the way all these guys performed, it was so cool. One of my favorite things about it is just the fan reaction as well. That pop, to use a term, is one of the biggest I've ever heard. And so it should be. And, you know, he's getting compared a lot to Daniel Bryan recently, and he kind of stepped back from that. It is the closest thing we've had since that. And Daniel Bryan didn't quite have a moment other than winning it. Daniel Bryan had a lot of big things, and then he had the 1, 2, 3. This is a moment for a story, for a turn. Turns are big, but this
possibly. Sorry, as I said, I would say we have the big moments for Daniel Bryan where he beats Batista, and then he didn't win a Rumble. Then we have the Yes movement and the takeover and not occupying the ring and stuff. The only time I would say in comparison, Daniel Bryan had a moment was with the Bray Wyatt on the steel cage. You know, when he turned back against Bray and he was on top of the cage yesing. That would be the only equivalent. I think this was so much bigger in the way it was portrayed. This was story. Obviously, the build for Daniel Bryan was to get to that next level, but for this, man, like as you said, I think it was incredibly done, and it feels like this is that moment where the guy that you love has taken us so much that now he wants to fight back, but before he fights back, he needs to get beaten. And then this is that build to basically Sami becoming the ultimate superhero. This is literally that moment.
Oh,
that is that moment where Sami now, whatever he does, is physically untouchable.
And even the kind of links to like old stories and stuff like that. Again, the Kevin Owens stuff, like weaving their story in, which is fantastic as well. It's been so cleverly handled and well done. Yeah, there are still a few things I'm not sure about. Still a few things I'm a bit concerned about and confused about. But performance-wise, it's been so great. And on the surface, like, I'm just picking up things because it's like any TV show where you go, like Game of Thrones, for example, like everyone hopes a certain thing's going to happen at the end of it. And like, it's because you're enjoying it so much that you've been fed this thing to go, well, I hope this character does this. It's the same sort of thing here, So you're always going to fantasy book things and wish things went a certain way until you see where it goes. There's still potential to mess things up. There is, don't get me wrong. They messed up Zack Ryder. They messed up the Summer of Punk. As much as there were great moments within both those things, and this is beyond that, I think, in some ways as well. So I just think where this goes now is really interesting because we've got the Montreal thing. We've all said for ages, seems like something big's going to happen in Montreal. But the big one for me, mate, is what happens with Jey Uso and the tag titles, not just the Bloodline, the tag titles.
Yeah. I think this is how you get them off the Uso. If there's cracks in the Bloodline,
you can't have a reign. That would annoy me though. You can't have a reign that good where you defeat the New Days in an incredible match to just be the longest reign in modern history. To then go, we've split up. So I don't know if we've ever seen the tag team go, we split up. So we're going to just forfeit it.
I think this is now cracks in. I think there's definitely cracks in the Bloodline. We see that last night. Jey walked out. Jey now needs to tell his side of why he done it. So we get that on SmackDown.
Yeah. I think they need to stay together. They need to stay together and lose, and then maybe something bigger down the line happens between Jey and Roman or something like that, Solo or Jimmy, whoever. But now it needs to be all right. There's a bubbling thing in the background of Jey. He's still involved. Do you know what I mean? They're disappointed in him. They punish him or something like that. But like he was when Jimmy and Jey first joined out with Roman, they kind of bit their tongue and kind of did it for the greater good and trusted him, even though they were annoyed. And every now and then they might turn. So it might be a continuation of the Sami thing, an extension of it, but now through Jey. But I think they need to lose the belts. I don't think we need to be going into the chamber where it's Jimmy, Solo, and Roman versus Kevin, Sami, and Jey. Because Jey didn't help Sami. It was against him. He didn't help him. And he also battered Kevin Owens. Like, Kevin ain't going to want to be his mate. Do you know what I mean? So we can't go straight up with a kind of easy booking of a 3-3. We need to go more dynamic and deep with this.
Yeah. I think because you've always seen Jimmy and Sami as the close ones, now because it happened with Jey, and Jey was the one that saved Sami, and Sami apologized to Jey and not the others. There's something deeper there, and I think the way they're going to be able to do that is Jey was just conflicted with what was going on. Like, he just didn't know what to do. So Jey walking away, it makes sense.
In some ways, it'll make certain things unbelievable looking back in hindsight, but they do this quite often. So they could basically be like, Jey knew all along, he had a plan all along. He liked Sami. He didn't want them getting too close. He knew something bad would happen. So he projected that he didn't like Sami. And he made it seem like he didn't want Sami involved because he knew Sami would get crushed. And he knew this day would come. And it was about to come. So that's why he jumped in and saved him. That I really like that idea. Like, Jey all along. Because again, from the very start, I was like, why is Jey suddenly okay with being in the Bloodline? Why is Jimmy okay? Jimmy ended up falling for it because Jey couldn't quite explain it. Solo gets brought in. and he thinks, crap, this is going too far. Sammy's getting too close. I need to pretend I'm the bad guy. I hate Sami to protect Sami. Doesn't quite work. He brings him in, pretends I accept him now. Jay's kind of thinking, these are my cousins. These are my brothers. I need to, like, you know what? Maybe I do trust Roman. Maybe it's not that bad after all, and he's been conflicted all along. I think that is very a good way to tell it, and just go, you know what? I realized that's the day I realized, no, like Roman, you are what I thought you were, and I was trying to protect Sami, and going against him was protecting him, defending him was protecting him. That's all I was ever trying to do, because in the end, I needed to get to you. And who knows? Maybe we get a main event Jey Uso out of it at SummerSlam or something like that versus Roman Reigns, because even that was a fantastic little feud between just the two of them. But yeah. I think that's the way I'd like to see it go. Mm-hmm. How would you like to see it go?
I can definitely see Jey going against Roman at some point. I feel Jey's got to prove himself to the family, basically the same way as, annoyingly, Sami did, and all that stuff. So basically, there's a story within a story within a story now. Where we go from here, I have no idea. Is it still going to go on to Mania? Maybe. Do we now get Roman versus Sami?
This is the thing. Cody versus Roman. Cody with Reigns. Someone are going to bring that involved here as well. And also the tag titles. Let's say they do lose the tag titles. Well, the best people to lose them to is Sami and Kevin. How can you be defending against your buddy Sami, who you've just walked out and because you didn't like what was happening, and then like be trusted by Jimmy to fight against him? So that's a sticky thing as well, because some people are saying it needs to be the tag match now between them two. It seemed writing on the wall a little while ago, because it didn't seem like he'd get the main spot with Roman, so we do it with Kevin instead and the Usos. But now it's like some people saying that needs to happen, other people saying that's not good enough. This needs to be Sami versus Roman Reigns. There's so much going on. It's kind of awkwardly too much going on. Something's got to give here.
I think the next thing we do, the quicker thing to do, Sami versus Roman at Elimination Chamber. Let's get that out of the way, because it's Montreal. So all of Montreal, Canada, they're going to be behind Sami.
Yeah.
Regardless of where they are, you could be in Roman's hometown and the crowd will still be behind Sami. That's how over he is right now.
Yeah.
Have Owens in his corner. And you have the rest of the bloodline, including Jey, in Roman's corner. And that's how you do it. And then Sami loses, gets beat down again. And then that builds up to the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for Mania. That way, we get that bit out of the way, then the Usos go from there. But there's still cracks in the Usos because of Jimmy leaving. So if they leave and there's a confrontation between the two brothers going on to Mania, that story can untwine, and then they can play mind games with that. There's the whole build there. And if they drop the titles at Mania, then they drop them night one. Roman drops titles at night two. I think that's in my opinion, that's the best way.
There are so many layers with it. They kind of complicate each other, but I'm trusting that they know what they're doing and they're going to book the right thing here. Again, it's been a incredible past few months. I think we've seen things that we never expected to see. Sami was one of the MVPs of the show a year ago. Do you know what I mean? So like to that jackass spot, he says himself, he loved it. He thought it was great. I think he did really well, and it was exciting before that. It was exciting after that, and this whole thing it's gone. I think though still beyond what anyone could have imagined. Whether or not he wins the title, I don't know. I mean, now that the Cody thing again is muddied waters here, it kind of feels like it has to be the Cody thing. A victim of bad timing maybe for Sami, but any other time I think Sami could do it, because they gave it to Kofi because they were like, this is a lovely feel good story. They did it with Daniel Bryan. It just felt right. I don't think they ever thought they'd ever give it to Kofi, other than like back in the days when he faced Randy Orton before the New Day and stuff like that. I don't think they ever thought that was coming now. He was a tag guy, and it happened. And it was a great moment. It was well deserved. I think we could get something like that with Sami, where they never thought that would be the case. And it's like, you'd be ridiculously foolish not to give him the title now. But the problem is we have this equally good, exciting, deep, emotional story. Maybe not as impactful at the moment because it's more spread out over history. And where everything's so contained at the moment with the Bloodline situation, it's been so kind of ever present and in our face. Even though it does weave to the past with Kevin Owens and stuff like that, and the year-long, 2-year or whatever of the Bloodline, the Cody one's much more spread out. So we're at a risk of kind of not being able to have both, but I hope in some way we do get both.
There is that. Can I also say, though, I done maths last night because I was listening to, I think it was Michael Cole, saying about how long Roman's reign has been so far.
Yeah.
So he's on 890 odd days, right? WrestleMania Night 1 would make it 999 days as champion.
No way.
So
no, you can't
Night
be
2,
right. That's not right. That's not right.
Double check it. I'm sure though. Night 2 would make him 1,000 days as champion. So imagine being dethroned on your 1,000th day.
Would he be? Okay, so
Night
he would have
1 would be 999. Yeah, he would have reached 1,000 on night 2.
That can't be true. Wait, I'm gonna have to get. All right, when did he win the first title? Roman Reigns.
So
win.
hang on.
What did he win
doing
first?
now?
WWE title, right?
I believe so. Yeah. Because they were saying about like the longest reigns, and is it Pedro Morales? Was that 1,027 or something like that?
It's got to be something like that, yeah. But imagine getting that close and not being the longest full time.
That'd be good though. I mean,
it's
the longest.
He had it for years, didn't he?
Now.
Bruno Sammartino had it for years. All right, when did Roman win it at SummerSlam? No, he was already champ at SummerSlam, when because he faced Cena. Let's have a look. When did he win it? He won it on. He attacked the Fiend on August 23rd. He won it against the Fiend and Strowman. He won the Universal title first. Oh, is that what he's had the longest? The Universal, sorry.
I believe so. Yeah. So
Payback, August the 30th, right?
There's 90 days. We've got 90 days till WrestleMania. Night 1.
Right. He won that August the 1st, or 31st, sorry, 2020. And let's do what days? Second day of WrestleMania? April. You know what? This is a suggested thing, mate. The suggested search when I do April is the 2nd and the 3rd.
I'm sure it builds up. It's close to. Is it?
No, it can't. No. Oh, that's the. I'm so confused now. It's saying 581 days. It's nowhere near that because he's just gone past 800, hasn't he? Oh, wait, I've done the wrong year. I've done 2022.
Oh, there you donut.
Oh, no, it's not, mate. It's 946.
Oh, is it? Is it?
Yeah.
What was I calculating yesterday? I must have been well tired. But it's close. It's definitely close. So do we
We did the exact same thing when we tried to come up with that theory about Austin Theory becoming youngest champion and all that stuff.
We did, yeah.
We got some of it right, but we messed a few things up as well, mate. We need to go back to the score.
We do. We really do. However,
but that's still, it's not far though, is it? He could.
So do we
potentially get to 1,000?
So okay, so you put it from this booking. Does Roman achieve a milestone of 1,000 before he drops the title?
When it's that close, I'd be so tempted to.
But then you take away from Cody.
But that could
does
happen
Cody
anywhere.
win it?
It doesn't have to be at Mania, but I don't know. Ask me closer to the time and see where my emotions are there, because at the moment they're all over the place. I have no idea.
Nice it's a great. They're in a good position though for this.
Yeah, it's a win-win in many ways. You know, there's so many dangers of shooting themselves in the foot. We said last night with the whole issue between Sami and Cody just around the Rumble itself, let alone the feud going on. So they've got to be careful with that as well. But man, ultimately, I'm excited. I'm happy to be a wrestling fan at the moment. Really enjoying what we're seeing in the WWE. Again, things have really kind of turned the corner the past year or so. So it's real fun to kind of be able to cover it here on this channel with people like yourself, Rob, and all the great people that again joined us last night on the build-up show. Again, if you haven't already, guys, feel free to go and have a check out that video on demand. Again, it is about kind of getting us and yourselves hyped up for an event, but that's already taking place. Don't get me wrong, but I understand a lot of you do go back and watch it because, again, we go in depth on a lot of these kind of discussions, even beyond the PLE that we're predicting. But that's how we run our streams here. We usually do a predictions and preview show, then a build-up show, and then, of course, you've been joining us here for the recap and review of Royal Rumble. Next up, we will be covering the Elimination Chamber. But in between that, we've got a lot of content on the channel, of course, that you can go back and check out. Whether you want to hear our thoughts on Sasha Banks Mercedes Money going to New Japan. If you want to hear us talk about the Money in the Bank coming to London, of course, you might be able to tell from our accents. Hey, that's local to us, so we're going to be excited to be there and cover it just like we did, of course, Clash at the Castle. As I mentioned earlier on, we got to have a great opportunity to chat to a lot of the WWE stars there in Cardiff and have some great chats with them, some really good in-depth conversations about their WWE careers and their futures as well. But we've got a lot more of that stuff on this channel throughout the years as well. We also do classic watch-alongs such as SummerSlam 92 or ECW One Night Stand 2005, if that's more kind of barking up your tree there. But anyway, I want to say thank you very much to everyone that's joined us, whether it be live or on demand. And as always, Rob, I want to say thank you to yourself for sticking with me. It's been a great weekend of wrestling action, and mate, I cannot wait to do it all over again. The Chamber is a really exciting pay-per-view event, PLE, and I got a feeling this year is going to be one that is really going to be exciting as well. But before we wrap up, mate, is there anything you want to say as well?
I'm just looking forward to that. The build now on the road to WrestleMania, or should we say the roads to WrestleMania?
The roads to WrestleMania. Let's point at the sign to wherever the WrestleMania sign is. We'll point towards it. But guys, again, thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time, your second time, your 12th time, who knows? Please like the video. Please subscribe. Tell your friends. That'd be absolutely fantastic to help grow what we're doing here on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. We are part of the Rebellious Noise family. We have separate channels for different things. We've got a football channel, film channel, a music channel, a food channel, and of course this is our pro wrestling channel, and we really do appreciate you joining us for the pro wrestling Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling podcast here as well. Again, we'll be back to cover Elimination Chamber. We're really hoping, guys, to get in a classic Chamber watch along as well, so we'll see what we can do around that. But either way, we'll be covering the Chamber itself from 2023 in depth, and any other big stories that do break between now and then. Now, I've been Scott. This one over here has been Rob. I want to say thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.